It's 5 p.m. and time for the regular scheduled meeting of Niagara Parish School Board for January. Board members and visitors, please silence your electronic devices, especially your cell phones, as to not interrupt the meeting. Thank you for your cooperation. And board members, we had a specific request just today, and you know I've asked in the past about speaking directly in your microphone, so please do that. And so the members of the public that are viewing can hear everything that's being said. Pastor Harris, can you do our invocation?
Will do.
Mr. Fredu, can you do our pledge?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Let us pray. Gracious Father, we are gathered here on this evening to conduct the business of the Natchitoches Parish School Board. Gracious Father, let us be mindful of how we talk, how we treat one another. Lord, let us be mindful of the fact that we are here for our children and not for one individual selves. Lord, we ask that you would just guide our hearts and minds, that we do what's pleasing in your sight. And we just ask all of these blessings and prayers in the matchless name of Jesus we do pray. Amen, amen, and amen.
Please face the flag and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Harris and Mr. Fredu. Board members, just to review some things that we talked about last Thursday. We've had a lot of great cooperation on the board in the last couple of years. Over the next 3 meetings, we're going to talk about some items and some topics that are going to have a lot of emotional ties to it. And we've allowed each other to speak uninterrupted in the past, and I know we're going to continue to do that. And as president, moderator of the meeting, or at least president for right now, when we'll have elections here in a minute, I'd like us to continue to be respectful of one another. We can't have a board without all of our continued cooperation and participation. And board members, we sure appreciate it. Members of the public, we allow comments on each agenda item, so if you've completed one of those forms, and we don't allow, it's not an open gallery, we don't allow comments from the crowd unless it goes through the normal process. So without that, we will, further ado, let's move to our agenda.
Would you like a roll call, Mr. Benefit?
I do. I'm sorry, Miss Rebels. Thank you for keeping us on track.
Mr. Danzy, Mr. Matwire,
Here.
Mr. Benefield,
Here.
Mr. Harris,
Present.
Mrs. McGaskey,
Here.
Ms. Palmer,
Here.
Ms. Phelps,
Here.
Ms. Harvey,
Here.
Mr. Fredu,
Here.
Mr. Nicholson,
Here.
and Ms. Page.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Superintendent Eloy.
Yes, sir. I just have 2 additional items to the superintendent report from last week. First of which, I just want to inform everyone, we have already made a post and done a robocall and all that fun stuff. Everyone will be in school tomorrow. Just to reiterate, no one on staff enjoys making the call to cancel school. We understand that that puts parents in a situation with work and things of that nature. But when your lovely friends and partners on the bus staff, when we have these conversations and buses are getting stuck, buses are also starting to possibly, hydroplane and fishtail. We're just not going to put our students at that risk, and especially with so many rural roads where water was coming over. That's why the decision was made, and luckily we have nice skies out right now, so tomorrow we'll be back to normal. I would like to now pivot to a good friend of the board and the districts, Mr. Mike Stewart. Before he gets up here, I want to tell you a little bit about what he's going to be talking about. And if I can find where I'm at, because I was given explicit instructions from Ms. Pinckney on what to say about this. I have to follow my notes. So what we've been doing, and this is a labor of love that I think goes back to Mr. Stewart's, when he got into his career, so probably 40 years. He has a love for industry. He has a love for Natchitoches Parish. And where we're at nationwide is we have a shortage of people to fill some of our most important jobs, which is industry. And we saw that probably even more so during COVID when you couldn't get the thing you wanted to get from whatever it was, or you were building a house and you didn't have the resources to do so. And so what he's trying to do is, in conjunction with Miss Pinckney, they've come together, and she's kind of that traditional education side, and he's that traditional industry side, and they've come together and they've created this manufacturing class where we literally have a gentleman who's been running industry for 40 years who is at Natchitoches Central, teaching both Natchitoches Central and Lakeview students what it means to go into that. I visited the class at least twice, maybe 3 times, because they're attracting a lot of attention. I think they've had lots of visitors. It's so different than anything you've ever seen. The students are different. The students are at such a high level in terms of their knowledge of industry, but then also their soft skills. We talk to industries across the board, whether it's Chick-fil-A or Walmart, and they want students who can come in and know how to act, know how to present themselves. And so he's actually got 3 students with him today that I think are excellent examples of what we're trying to turn out for industry. And I'll introduce them. It's Mr. Ben Dawson, Mr. Gage Willis, and Miss Dina Elzy. And I'm going to now turn it over to Mr. Stewart because I think he's going to bring some of them up. They might even tell us their safety pledge and shake everyone's hands because that's what they've been trained to do.
Well, I've done reiterated them many times, 3 minutes. So which way you want to go?
Did anyone reiterate that to you, Mr. Stewart?
Today, but I've heard it many times. And by the way, that's 49 years.
49 years, I'm sorry.
Y'all ready? My name's Mike Stewart. My safety pledge for the day is I'll do everything in my power to create a safe work area that will allow everyone involved to return home alive and well at the end of the day.
My name is Ben Dawson, and my safety pledge is to use my attitude and awareness to make myself a safe and friendly employee.
My name is Dina Elzy, and I will go above and beyond my job safety requirements so we can all go home at the end of the day.
My name is Gage Willis. My commitment to safety is pay attention to dangerous hazards so we can go home at the end of the day.
Okay.
Mr. Stewart,
Yes, sir.
can you reiterate on how highly competitive it is to get into this program, and what the type of student we're looking for?
Well, what we did when we decided to start piloting this program last year is Miss Pinckney got with all the ag and shop teachers, and they promoted this. The juniors, the seniors we have, because this is seniors only, these juniors last year filled out an application and wrote an essay. And then Miss Pinckney went through, checked all their files, made sure there wasn't no issues, the grade point averages, what they needed to graduate, and that's how the original 10 got chosen. Now, with some scheduling issues with one of our students, we lost one, excuse me, in the second semester, but we still have 9. We still have 6 from Natchitoches Central and 3 from Lakeview.
It's a good balance.
Before we get deep into that, we've got some acknowledgments that we desperately want to do, because without these acknowledgments and these people, this would not be possible. First of all, thank y'all for having us. Thank you, Dr. Eloy, for inviting us. But without Miss Pinckney and this Natchitoches Parish School Board, this would not be happening. This is something that she's been working on for years, and she has done an awesome job. The other acknowledgement is Coach Coleman, Miss Gilmore at Natchitoches Central, Miss Renner at Lakeview, and all the amazing counselors that have arranged, rearranged, and rearranged schedules for us to be able to keep these students for 2 semesters. A lot of work been done. Now we want to recognize our manufacturing partners. In August, when we started this program, we had 5 manufacturing partners with 2,510 hourly jobs within a 50-mile radius of Natchitoches. By word of mouth, and I don't know how they all found out, but we do very little marketing, we now have 10 manufacturing partners with 3,363 hourly jobs within a 50-mile radius. We started off with Alliance, IP Red River, IP Mansfield, Royal Martin, and Weyerhaeuser. Since then, we have added Pilgrim's Pride, ADA Solutions, Cleco, Ram Services, and 3J Construction. Now, you may ask, why a construction company? This is one of the larger construction companies in our area, and they do a lot of outage in the mills and the plants, and they're in need of certified mechanical reliability type people as bad as industry in general, because we don't have enough maintenance people in most of our plants and mills, so we have to hire contractors to do what we don't have enough people to do. I want to go one step further, and I want to mention 3 of the most outstanding of these manufacturing partners. Weyerhaeuser, Red River IP, Mansfield IP has went above and beyond donating us rotating equipment, centrifugal pumps, positive placement pumps, hydraulic cylinders, pumps, reducers, all the equipment in the world for us to work on. So I can't express our appreciation enough, because without their donations, we wouldn't have the equipment to work on that we need to do the actual hands-on. So now I'm going to let these 3 talk, and then I'll come back and answer any questions.
Good evening. I am Dina Elzy, and I am a senior at Natchitoches Central. Over the summer, I was informed of this class, and this class has exceeded my expectations, wildest dreams. We have learned about 401ks, job interview skills, and resume building. We have also networked and visited several of our industrial manufacturing partners, and this class has been phenomenal. But the title class does not correctly illustrate what we do. This class is a job. We have built the shop that we work in. We have built both the shop and ourselves for success past graduation. Before the class, I wanted to major in agricultural and biological engineering at LSU. But because of this class, I now want to major in environmental engineering at LSU with the pursuit of a PE license after getting my degree. This class has single-handedly made me aware how important it is to set realistic goals and know how to achieve them. So I thank you, Natchitoches Parish School Board, Ms. Pickney, and Mr. Mike. Thank you for your time.
Could we make a commercial out of that? I mean,
Yeah, go.
Mike's filming it, so
Good
kind
afternoon.
of form.
My name is Gage Willis. I'm a senior at Natchitoches Central High School. This class has given me the opportunity to network with employees and valuable people in Natchitoches. If I'm ever in a situation where I need a job or I have banking issues, I have a collection of their contact information. Ms. Pickney and Mr. Mike has guided us and built us into both better employees and people. Since attending Central, this is the first class I have passion towards. Thanks to Ms. Pickney and Mr. Mike, I wake up ready to go to a class, but this is not a class you sit in for an hour. This class is a job. In the mornings, we establish the importance of safety through safety pledges, then develop our industrial manufacturing skills. Me and my peers are more than classmates. We are a team and a family. I am currently pursuing welding through BIPSI, getting my certification. Through my employment status outside of graduation has not been confirmed yet. I'm confident that I will be a valuable employee to our manufacturing partners. So I say thank you to Ms. Pickney and Mr. Mike and the Natchitoches Parish School Board. Thank you.
My name is Benjamin Dawson, and I'm here just to speak a little bit on the class that we do and why I'm so grateful for it. I'm very grateful and honored to be able to have an opportunity to speak today. I give thanks to the people who have been supporting me thus far. This class has built me to be successful after graduation. Speaking of graduation, after high school, I will be attending Bossier Parish Community College for my second major in welding this summer. And after, I will either pursue my career in welding or industrial manufacturing. I've learned and met so many valuable people during this short amount of time I've been in this class. To name a few people that I've had the pleasure of meeting would be the outside representative of Fastenal, the territory manager for NSK Corporation, the equipment reliability specialist from Chesterton Global Solutions, along with 3J's Construction and Ram Services, and the list goes on and on. When we are not visiting industries or meeting new faces, we work in our shop learning how to use different tools such as combination squares, torches, drills, torque wrenches, micrometers, calibers, and so much more. Not only that, we also establish safety through each student giving a short presentation through a safety pledge. The skills we learn in this class have developed us into competent employees, and I couldn't be more grateful for Mr. Mike and Ms. Pinckney, and also the Natchitoches Parish School Board for putting this all together. But not only for giving us this class, but they also gave me a team that I've grown close to. With that said, I appreciate this opportunity that I've been given today. Thank you.
What school will you be graduating from?
Natchitoches Central.
Okay.
Before they leave, Mr. Mike, I have a question for the three students. Now, you heard about safety, you heard about the orientation, you heard about all of that. Were you still surprised at the level of safety that was demanded upon you when you stepped foot on those facilities and those orientations?
Yes, sir.
It is a different level. And you can hear about it in class all day, but until you sit in front of a safety director and they say, this is what's going to happen, it's eye-opening. Because they want you to go home with 10 fingers and 10 toes. Thank you.
Okay, creating skill set is one thing, but our primary goal is to produce a well-trained, highly skilled, tax-paying citizen to Natchitoches and Natchitoches Parish.
Right.
At the end of the day, that's what our goal is. That's why they have met with bankers, they met with CPAs, they met with family lawyers, family law, and all of these people that represented these companies. Y'all all know them, my first name. They've been here in Natchitoches all their life. But to create a card book of contacts for them in the future, when it's time to buy a vehicle, when it's time to buy a home, when it's time to look at their investments and what they're going to do in their future, they now have an index book full of business cards of everybody they need to be successful in an adult business life. One other thing that I want to throw out there. Normally, when you apply for a job, you're interviewed by an HR team, correct? Before you're hired. That's not really how this is going. With 10 manufacturing partners and them having the opportunity to choose who they go to work for, they also have a page full of questions that they interview HR people with. So we put the shoe on the other foot. So if you can't sell your company to these, you don't get one of them. And I mean, that's not hard, but if you're looking at possibly taking a job that you may spend 40 years in, you need to know what you're getting into and what they have to bring to the table before you accept. Now, are there any questions?
When do you think we'll see that number go from 10 students up?
Just as soon as you take the other class.
Okay.
I got two people here. I got you and Mr. Breedlove that's not sitting at this table over here, but we do have two more qualified people. I'll just let y'all know.
I got my questions for you later. I'll interview you.
Okay.
Good answer, Mr. Stewart.
Well, many of the trade schools and community colleges have tried to hire people to teach these type of courses with 3 to 5 years experience in industry. You don't get it in 3 to 5 years. I'm sorry, but it does not work.
I think it's important to note too that this is a community college level situation that we
It
have
is.
implanted in our high schools.
This was supposed to be at BIPSI, well, it's supposed to be at CLTCC, and then BIPSI took over and it didn't work out. So that's why we're so grateful to the Natchitoches Parish School Board for stepping up and say, hey, we'll do it.
But it's also business math and all of the things that go along with life skills that we don't normally teach in high school anymore.
Well, the business math of this is one thing, but one thing you have to do when you start this course is learn how to live to the right of the decimal. Anything to the left in this industry of the decimal is a given. Everything that we work on, everything that we touch, has a tolerance of plus or minus 2,000. That's the clearances that we work with. Chad,
At the foot or at the coupling?
sir,
At the foot or at the coupling? They don't know what that means.
across the board, inboard and out, which we've discussed that too, and they can show you the inboard in and the outboard in.
So the training they get is during the senior year,
Yes, ma'am.
and when they finish these courses, they are certified to begin work with any of these partners?
Yes, ma'am. This will be a separate certificate on their diploma.
Okay.
And they've been told by every one of these manufacturing partners that if they complete this course and they get the certification and they're 18 years old, they are hired.
So, Mr. Stewart, I'm sorry, Ms. McGaskey. We need to make sure we get with the principals of both those schools in that we always announce scholarships, but all the students need to have their jobs announced at graduation as equal to a scholarship to a college.
Well, it's like we've got 2 or 3 that's going to go across the parking lot to BIPSI for a short period of time, but they will, in the back of their mind, already have chosen who they're basically going to go to work for. And then Dina, like she said, she's going to LSU. She's going to get her engineering degree. She's going to get her PE. And she's 99.9% sure who she's going to work for, but she ain't telling nobody right now.
So I'd also like to say the board was very supportive of this. I think in my interactions, and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, the 2 people who pushed me the most on this, I would say would be Pastor Harris and Mr. Benefield. As Chad came on later in the process, he, as an industry person himself, he started pushing, but I know they were early in the process, so I got to thank them. And obviously, Mr. Stewart, you along with Ms. Pinckney have been driving forces in this, so we can't say enough. You know, people always ask, how can you get involved? And I don't know the answer. I think the answer is go talk to Mike and see how he organically made this happen. I do want to say, thank you. I'm going to mention also that we do need to be in prayer for Mr. Mike because you do need to remember he's an Alabama fan and they're going through some stuff right now. But we really appreciate all you've done.
I'm not scared.
Well, Mr. Mike, we were using a figure of what, 50 to 60 beginning entry level? And
Yes, sir, but
That's why I was going.
some of these companies have stepped up.
they've actually gone up $2.50
Well,
an hour.
we've got some that's, for instance, one of them, if you hire in, I won't call which one, if you hire in as a maintenance associate, which is a level nothing, you just hire in to go to work every day and be mentored by a mechanical precision maintenance person and do your E-courses, a little over $28 an hour starting.
And that's no overtime, so that's right
No,
at,
sir,
right at
that's no
60.
overtime. And with you
Plus-
coming out of the industry, you guys that's been in the industry, y'all know what that looks like.
Plus the benefit package of another, so they're making about somewhere around 72 to 80 right away.
Right. That's one of the reasons we have had 2 bankers. Of course, I'll go ahead and say Roger Cunningham, AJ, we've had all these financial people in to talk to these young people because they've never seen the kind of money they're about to be seeing this time next year.
And Mr. Benefield, one of you all's plants in Dotson, I just spoke with them. They will be interviewing for people coming to work for them, but our kids are already getting the training because they'll have to go through the safety training and all that. These kids will come out ready to go to work.
If it's within my power, they will. And when it's time, and of course, we've had somebody from NSU come and sit with us on resume writing. We'll have all of that. But we also I have 3 pages of interview questions, be it Aon Hewitt or some of the different interview companies out there that handle hiring, third-party companies. I have several pages of interview questions that we will go over repeatedly before it's time for them to interview with anybody.
I remember the one thing that Dr. Jackson said about our school system. It is to make taxpayers, just what you said, to make taxpayers.
That's our goal.
Right.
Create value-added tax-paying citizens to Natchitoches and Natchitoches Parish.
Yes.
And when you look at a 50-mile radius, and when the mayor came to visit with us, he was mesmerized to see these numbers. And he said, "How do you get it?" I said, "Well, I got them from the HR people at each one of these manufacturing partners." And with Clico being the last one, Clico's a pretty good-sized outfit, too. And they are really excited about trying to hire some of these students. But again, if your HR department don't come and sell your company, you may not get any of them. And some of these companies may get 2 or 3 of them. But again, it's their choice.
All of these companies have a help wanted sign out.
Yes, sir. Nobody is totally staffed. Nobody.
No wonder.
And I can tell you one thing about this group of young people. They make me proud every day. Every day.
Mr. Mike, you make us proud of taking this concept and making it not only usable, but outstanding.
Well, I appreciate that, but it's not about me. It's about them.
Thank you so much.
Your dedication.
Thank you, sir.
So still under my superintendent report, we did place the nominations for both president and vice president.
I would like for us to consider reviewing some of the accomplishments from last year and some of the good things that's happened in this district prior to doing that, if we could, Dr. Eloy. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were going to do that.
No.
Let me pull up my. Oh goodness. I sent that to you today, correct?
Yes, you did. Actually, the day before yesterday.
Okay. Apologies, y'all. I thought I misunderstood, but I'm pulling it up right now. So this is a letter we wrote to kind of entail the past. Some of this is the past year, and some of it goes a little further to 2 years ago, but I think it gives you a good picture of what we have done this past year. There's not a faster growing school district in the state of Louisiana than Natchitoches Parish. That isn't hyperbole or exaggeration. That is objective fact based on student growth over the course of the past 2 years. We are genuinely changing the trajectory of our entire community as we continue to improve outcomes for our students. So what are we doing, and what have we already done to be the fastest growing district in the state? Over the past 2 years, we have been named the highest district for proficiency growth in the state, a top 10 district for proficiency growth 2 years in a row, a top 10 district for district performance growth. We have doubled our literacy rate, and we have moved up 11 spots in overall state district rankings. We have also been cited as a top 7 district for special education student growth 2 years in a row, and have removed or are on track to remove many of the countless federal labels that our schools previously held for needing critical or urgent intervention. We are also celebrating history being made in our district. Natchitoches Central has been named an A for the first time in its history, and for the first time in a very long time, there are no failing schools in our district. We are also seeing growth in our workforce. Over the past 2 years, the number of certified teachers in the district has increased, with it expected to increase significantly next year. In the past year, we have run a large-scale recruitment campaign that promoted our district around the state to entice teachers to move to Natchitoches. We've also created incentive packages that make our most in-need schools more monetarily appealing to certified applicants. We've also created structures within our schools where our teachers receive consistent professional development on a weekly basis from an instructional specialist whose sole job is to coach teachers. Through these initiatives, we have seen significant growth in the skill and ability of our educators. Most recently, we received close to a $15 million competitive federal grant. This grant will span 3 years and a possible 2 extended years in total for 5 years. Our grant brings in 2 new jobs to our district and pays for a further 22 positions already existing in our district. It will create a teacher career pipeline where a teacher does not have to leave teaching for administration in order to move up in their career. Now they can move up from a career teacher to a mentor teacher to a master teacher and eventually executive master teacher. These structures empower our teachers and create a consistent, multi-tiered system for supporting our teachers. Furthermore, the grant will provide teachers with performance pay, a system where teachers are paid in addition to their salaries via an end-of-the-year bonus based solely on student growth. Performance pay will increase our teacher salaries for the second time in 2 years. Previously, I would remind you that teachers in Natchitoches Parish had not seen a raise in over 14 years. Not only will it increase salaries, but it will also continue our mission of improving student performance, all while injecting close to $2 million more dollars into our local economy. Furthermore, this grant also aims to increase diversity in our workforce so that our workforce more closely mirrors the diversity of our student population. Besides the data, we also feel like there are several immeasurable changes that we have made. We believe that the culture we have today in Natchitoches Parish is night and day to what it was 4 years ago. Where we used to be associated with negative culture, we believe our transformation has cast us in a more positive light. We believe that we are in a service-oriented business and we must be sensitive to the needs of our customers, which for us is the entire community. Our social media presence helps us to tell our story and highlight the positives of our organization and communicate more consistently to our community. As a district, we are also heavily involved with our community. We have partnerships growing with NSU through dual enrollment and associate's degrees, NRMC, telemedicine, Big Brothers Big Sisters, Royal Martin, Woodworks, Louisiana Sports Hall of Fame, City of Natchitoches through the Mayor's Youth Council, Weyerhaeuser, BOM, Chamber of Commerce, A+ Coalition, International Paper, and countless other organizations. We are always looking at ways that we can better the community and strengthen ourselves and others through robust partnerships that ultimately benefit students. An event that exemplifies our partnerships is our large beginning of the year Back to School Expo, which many of you attended this year, where all of our schools and partners were able to distribute thousands of backpacks to our students and families. I could go on, and y'all know I usually do, about how much we've done in the past 4 years and how much we've done in the past 2 years, and even more specifically, how much has been done in the past year. But I think it's important that we always, at this time when we move on to new leadership, that we reflect on what this board has allowed the staff and our teachers and our school staff to accomplish. And so for that, there's so many superlatives, but I want to thank this board. You're 1 year into your 4 years, but I have to say thank you for this past year.
Thank you, Superintendent Eloy. Wonderful, wonderful progress. A couple of things. The board really provides the resources, but it's the staff and the superintendent that makes it go. And, we receive feedback about approachability and accountability and also transparency. And so we conducted 8 town hall meetings last June, which were just for these purposes, to receive feedback from the public, and we ask the questions, what can we do as a school system to better support the community? And we received a lot of good things, a lot of good ideas, a lot of good suggestions, and a lot of them we were able to act on immediately. We also had follow-up meetings in the fall with some small focus groups, and that was very, very beneficial. A lot of those town hall meetings we did as a whole, a lot of them went very, very smoothly. We did have some that, well, they were a little different, and but anyway, the Strong Grant, what Dr. Eloy just talked about, $15 million over the next 5 years. They saw in us what we really wanted to see happen, and so it's a great partnership with us. The salary structure that Mr. Lee and Superintendent rolled out, first time we've had something so complex and so comprehensive to really benefit everything. I mean, just it goes on and on and on. All of the improvements that Dr. Eloy mentioned were definitely as a result of the staff and the superintendent and the business team. Let's look at some of the pull-through effect. He mentioned it too. This is a much better place to work than it was 5 years ago. You know, do we have some improvement? Yes, absolutely. We've got some things to do. Are we there? No. But are we on the right track? I guarantee you we are. I want to recognize all the good things that we've talked about, and you know, the people in the community and the taxpayers in Natchitoches Parish really need to hear this. They need to hear it often, and they need to hear it loudly from us on what's going on in the school system. And I appreciate the forethought that the superintendent has provided, and the plan that he has provided, and the staff to execute this. And without them, the resources that we've applied would mean nothing. And I just want to say how much we appreciate it. Thank you, guys. And with that, Superintendent Eloy, that's up to you now.
So yeah, I guess because in this instance I'm in charge. So we would now be looking for motions to nominate individuals for board president.
I nominate Mr. Benefield as president.
Second.
So a nomination or a motion by Mr. McTwire and a second by Pastor Harris. Any discussion
Or other nominations?
or other nominations? So I'm new at this. I apologize. Okay. Let it go for about 5 to 10 more seconds, and then I'll ask for a roll call vote from Ms. Revels.
I move the nomination be closed.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. All in favor of that motion?
We're going to need a roll call.
Okay. A roll call on nominations closing, Ms.
No, on the final vote.
Okay. I'm just trying. I'm a lot of things. I'm not adept at Robert rules. Okay. So
well, we'll go ahead and close the nominations.
close the nominations. Okay. Ms. Revels, roll call on the nomination for Mr. Benefield for president.
Before you do that, Ms. Revels, Superintendent Eloy was correct. We can do a global vote to close the nominations on the motion by Mr. McTwire and a second by Pastor Harris. We can do that, but the roll call vote needs to be on the individual position. So there's a motion on the floor by Mr. McTwire, second by Pastor Harris, to close the nominations.
All in favor of that motion, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion passes. Or is that what you say, Ms. Revels? Okay, so now we need a roll call vote for the nomination of Mr. Benefield for president.
That's correct.
Are you going to take this over on vote?
Mr. McTwire,
Yes.
Mr. Benefield,
Recuse.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey,
Yes.
Ms. Palmer,
Yes.
Ms. Phelps,
Yes.
Ms. Harvey,
Yes.
Mr. Fredu,
Yes.
Mr. Nicholson,
Yes.
and Ms. Page.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Congratulations, Mr. Benefield.
Thank you, board members. We now receive nominations for Vice President of Natchez Parish School Board for the 2024 school year.
I nominate Mr. Russ Danzy.
I'll second that nomination, Mr. McTwire. Any other nominations? Mr. Danzy could not be here tonight, so if you don't show up for a meeting, what happens? Ms. Page,
Here to deny it.
Ms. Page is called for the close of nominations.
Second.
Okay. Second by Mr. McTwire. All in favor of closing the nominations, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? A roll call vote for Mr. Russell Danzy to be the Vice President of Natchez Parish School Board for 2024. Ms. Revels.
Mr. McTwire,
Yes.
Mr. Benefield.
Yes.
Mr. Harris,
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey,
Yes.
Ms. Palmer,
Yes.
Ms. Phelps,
Yes.
Ms. Harvey,
Yes.
Mr. Fredo,
Yes.
Mr. Nicholson,
Yes.
and Ms. Page.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you very much. Superintendent, your new business.
Well, just quick question. We still remain with Ms. Tankia as our finance chair?
Yeah, that's the president appoints those positions.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Ms. Tankia says she's there for life.
Oh, awesome. Good deal.
Well, maybe not so much, but yeah.
Okay, so we have a resolution. This goes with y'all's school board training. We actually have 2 awards. First, I'll read the training resolution that came from LSBA. School Board Member Training Resolution. Whereas each member of a city and parish school board shall receive a minimum of 6 hours of training and instruction as required by Act 705 of the 2011 Louisiana Legislature. And whereas this training and instruction shall consist of school laws of the state, laws governing the powers, duties, and responsibilities of city and parish school boards, educational trends, research, and policy, and whereas such instruction may be received from an institution of higher education in the state from instruction sponsored by the State Department of Education or by an in-service training program conducted by a city or parish school board central office or the Louisiana School Boards Association, or training provided at the national level, and whereas each member of a city parish school board shall receive 1 hour of ethics training per year of their tenure as a board member. Now, therefore, be it resolved that it become public record that Billy Benefield Jr., Russ Danzy, Chad Fredo, Stephen Harris, Leela Harvey, Dorothy McGaskey, Emil McTwire, Micah Nicholson, Barbara Page, Tankia Palmer, and Reba Phelps, members of the Natchez Parish School District, have successfully received and or exceeded the 6 hours of required training as mandated by the legislature of Louisiana, and all board members have fulfilled the mandate of 1 hour of ethics training for the year 2023. Certificate. I, the undersigned superintendent of Natchez Parish School District, do hereby certify that the above and foregoing is a true copy of a resolution adopted at its regular school board meeting on January 25th, 2024. So with that being said, I will pass these out. Do y'all mind if we pass these out at the end of the board meeting? Is that okay?
Sounds fine.
I would also like to identify a few other folks. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 individuals that are being given special recognition by LSBA because not only did they do the mandatory training, but they went above and beyond and earned 20 more hours of training. So they just, they take this extremely seriously. We have Mr. Benefield received an extra 20 hours. Pastor Harris received an extra 20 hours. Miss Leela Harvey did as well. Miss Reba Phelps, Miss Dorothy McGaskey, and Mr. McTwire, Mr. Emil McTwire, and finally, Miss Barbara Page. And so we will, before y'all leave today, some of you have 2, some of you, everyone has at least 1. Please come get these from me. But thank you, board members. This shows not only that we have intelligent, educated board members, but they are dedicated to what they're doing. And so we appreciate your efforts in this area.
I thank you, Dr. Elo. I agree that this board and the prior board, probably the 2 best boards, school board wise, at Natchez Parish has probably ever seen, at least what I've observed. Next item is consent agenda.
Mr. Benefield, can we get a motion on that resolution, please?
I'll offer.
Second.
You've got both of them.
Roll call vote? No. Unanimous.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Revels, for keeping us straight. Okay. We have one thing on the consent agenda, looking at moving the February 13th meeting to the 15th. So before we,
I'll make a motion that we accept the agenda.
we have a motion by Mr. Matwire, and a second by Ms. Page to accept the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Thank you. Okay, we've got some informational reports, and we'd like to start with the Echo.
No, you want to,
Excuse, do what?
we gonna move the meeting?
Yeah, it's part of the consent agenda. It was part of the consent, yes. Yes, sir. You just need to make sure that everybody has that on their calendar. Ms. Page.
Good afternoon, everybody. Going to start off for our January school board meeting. I want to introduce Mr. Jacob Watson. Some of you don't know, I've stepped down as a terminal manager, Echo. I'm still with the company. I'm just in a different role. And so we hired in a new terminal manager, and his name is Jacob Watson. And so you guys will get to know him, and I'll still come, and we're just shadowing each other so we can make sure he's on board with everything you guys have going on. He'll tell a little bit about himself after we go over what we had. Our trainers went to New Orleans, and they completed their refresher course and gained a lot of knowledge, the upcoming changes from LDOC. And also over the Christmas break, we hired 7 new drivers. So that took us at 100%. So we are fully staffed for the first time in a long time, and we actually don't even have enough routes for our people. So I'm excited about that. I told Jacob he came in when it was good, we did the hard work. So with that being said, I would just want him to introduce himself and y'all got any questions for him?
Hey everyone, my name is Jacob Watson. I'm from Alexandria, Louisiana, and Georgia. I've kind of moved back and forth between the two my entire life, but I grew up in Alexandria. I come from FedEx Freight. I spent 3 years as an operations supervisor, and I am so proud to accept this position with Echo Ride and what I believe to be a much more noble cause. And I can't be thankful enough for the position that I've been granted, and I can't wait to work with every single one of you for any concern that comes up. My phone and my door is always open for anyone on the school board and any parents. So please, come see me.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Y'all have any questions or anything?
Mr. Watson, if you lose a package, it's whatever, but let's don't lose any students.
No, sir. Safety is the #1 priority when it comes to Echo.
Any questions or anything?
I don't have a question. I just want to make a comment
Okay.
for the fact that we thank you, Ms. Washington. You are much appreciated for the hard work under difficult circumstances sometimes, because I feel like you've actually been a very good employee representative for Echo Ride.
Well, thank
you.
Agreed.
Thank you, Ms.
Thank you, Ms.
Washington.
Washington.
I think everyone on the board totally agrees. Thank you, Ms. McGaskey, for those comments. Okay. Ms. Rashow.
Good afternoon. Good evening, everyone. How are y'all? It's going to be very short this evening. Basically, what I want to share with you is that we have completed the super app for school year 24-25. Today, actually, we will click the submit button in the morning because I am a little overachiever and I want to do one more checklist, one more look at it before we submit for those funds for the school year 24-25. What I shared with you this month was the ESSA, the Every Student Succeed Act, Consolidated Federal Grants Request. And this is just a protocol that we have to make sure that we do every year moving forward, is just to advise the public as well as the school board that we are applying for these funds. As stated on the table that you see, the formula, there are formulas to distribute the funds to school districts based on the number of formula children in the district. So you don't have a set number that we are applying for. I can't tell you, I can't stand here this evening and say we're applying for $5 million because it's based on our enrollment count. But we do, under ESSA, we receive funding for Title I, Part A, Title II, and Title IV. Any questions?
Ms. Rochelle, that's actually a good point. Board members, I mentioned this to you in a correspondence, but I did want to it be reflected in the record that last week I told y'all that we had the 11 extra individuals going to the NIT conference. I mistakenly said they were being covered out of Strong. They are being covered out of Title II federal funds. So just wanted to clarify. So it was a mistake.
No worries. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Rochelle. Okay, Mr. Lee.
Yeah, Lee's finished all his.
Oh, so you know nothing to add?
Maintain.
Okay, I'm sorry. That's so rare that you don't have something to insert.
Well, he did say if you want him to get up there, he'll.
We're okay.
Okay.
Mr. Ryan.
How are y'all this evening?
Ryan, before you get started, I do want to mention to the board, and just his team hasn't gotten any accolades, but during the freeze and all that stuff, they have not stopped. And the reason 11 of our schools were in session last week and everything is because they worked around the clock to make sure pipes and leaks and everything. So it was
fun.
It was. So
fun.
Appreciate
I just
you and your entire
more.
team.
Well, appreciate it. My December month was actually kind of short. We were out most of the month, so I didn't have a whole lot to report for some schools. Now, this next report we get for the next month is going to be full of nice roof leaks and ice and freeze protocols that we're going to go over, and just a ton of leaks. The last 2 weeks we have literally not stopped. 3 of us, actually 4 of us, worked the Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday of the freeze that everybody was out trying to get things up and repaired. The major things we had go on in the month of December's, we got another pod completed for us. The AC units at NJH was in pretty bad shape, so we got that AC up and going in that. We rounded out a few projects for as Natchitoches Central with their parking lot striping and the new numbers. It actually looks very well. Got a construction company to come in and give us some ideas on how to repave some of the areas. Other than that, guys, it's just the normal everyday sewer leaks, water leaks, so forth and so on. Do y'all have any questions?
2 things. Lakeview, I was informed, I don't know if you know about this, the baseball scoreboard does not work and has not worked for quite a while. I was told it did not work last year. I was told that when the work was done up there, you know, the upgrades that we had, that something was cut in and never repaired by that contractor, and they never showed back up. How true that is, I don't know.
It's a possibility.
And okay, so I mean, they played all season apparently with no scoreboard last year. We got a new coach this year. I mean, you know the.
Oh yeah. I've met him and I like him.
Right.
I think me and him's gonna get along good.
And then the second thing, the lighting out at Lakeview at night. I don't know if we can upgrade those lights, some new bulbs or something. But the other night we were up there for the Christmas program, the band concert, and man, at night you walk out, I mean, we were right there by the front.
I'm gonna ask a serious question because I know we've repaired them.
Okay.
How many lights is there?
It's not many. It could.
I don't recall any being in the center.
There's not many.
The front part too, the front part as well as the parking lot. And the other question is, whose responsibility is it to report that the school board was out? Because if you all didn't know,
It should have been a baseball coach. Baseball coach is there every day.
Yeah.
And if he would have turned that in, you know, of course, most principals are Johnny on the spot with sending me the work order. So, yeah, I've never even heard that it.
There's been a changeover. I don't know what happened in the past. I was asked about it the other day, so
And I'm going to tell you, to be perfectly honest, in some situations, like some of our junior highs that don't have them, they don't have anybody that will work them anyway.
Right.
So they just don't even, they just push it off and don't even worry about it. So could have been one of those situations, but I'll get an electrician out there and we'll see what's going on.
Thank you.
Mr. Shirley, in Marthville, the old gym, all that dirt that you moved away and put a French drain, did they receive some water with all this rain?
No, sir. We actually went out there and checked. The first day when we pulled up the floor, to double check, we were literally digging mud, and it was still wet all the way to almost the free throw line. We went out there the other day, very minimal moisture period. We was at a 48% moisture underneath it. We were at about a 16 the other day. We're still letting it dry out before we put that floor back down.
That's great, though. All that rain that we had in the last couple of days, and that's good.
Yeah.
A lot of progress.
It's actually done good. The French drain, it's still been too wet back there to put the French drain, so just getting the dirt dug down and away from the building has been extreme help.
Is there plans for the floor to be replaced?
Yes, sir.
Sometime
We already, during the Christmas break, I had the flooring guy come in, and we're gonna have to go from basically the free throw line on that end all the way across, because we went from 58% and it's got to be under 14%. We didn't hit that until we got almost to the free throw line.
Wow.
Yeah, it's been doing it for a while. And I mean, when you can literally dig mud out from under the boards, it was pretty bad.
So was there any issues with flooding because of so much rain the last few days?
The only one that I was worried about was actually Weaver. It got pretty close. We had a drain stop up, a city drain, and we have a culvert, which actually I've got a guy that's supposed to come root that culvert out for us. We tried to do it ourselves, but we don't have anything strong enough to get under there. That was the only one. We had roof leaks, but no actual flooding as far as we know. Nobody's reported any. And now I watched Miss Armitrius's place over there, and it got pretty close.
I have a question, but I think I might have to address that with the superintendent, to do with a couple of schools whereby there are issues, complaints from the faculty and some of the parents when the weather is really cold and there's, a lot of rain that we've had for a few days, and sometimes they're outside, in the weather. And I think like some schools allow kids to go inside when there's a lot of rain or when it's really cold, and we want to make sure that the safety of the kids is the number one priority.
Yes, ma'am.
So I don't know if that's addressed. I'll take that up at a later time if that's not handled through.
Actually, that would be me. So I'm trying to understand the question. As far as the kids actually doing recess outside, or are you talking about in the mornings when they're waiting for the bus?
The cold weather and when it's
That's
raining.
actually left up to the principal, and here's the reason. When you start taking 100 kids and sticking them in a hallway, that becomes a fire marshal issue. So if they can come up with a way to line them to where they don't take up half the hall and they're not all right there in a bunch, then that's fine. If you want to see somebody who does it right, go watch LP Vaughn. I watched them yesterday. I was over there when they was putting them babies in them cars, and they had them set by teacher with group to watch their children, and they can move.
I've seen it in some schools because my granddaughter's been on the third school. So
yeah, I was impressed with Miss Chris's stuff that she had going on over there yesterday. That was pretty cool.
Okay, we'll talk later.
Mr. Shirley and Mr. Wascom, I don't know what your schedule is like for maybe tomorrow to go up at Lakeview, because I think they got a game. Is the game at home?
It is, and I'm gonna try to go. If not tomorrow night, I can take some pictures.
Yeah, because I would like to.
I actually got to go that way tomorrow.
Yeah, I'd like for us as soon as possible to get on that lighting situation.
Yeah, and see, I can change those to LEDs pretty reasonable, but it depends on how many there is and if we have enough coverage, You know what I mean? The
Right.
LED part is
It may turn into a big project. I mean, it just needs to be looked into. I mean,
Yeah, but we can do that. I'll be that way tomorrow, probably half the day, because we're visiting all three of those schools out there tomorrow.
Lakeview been like that during the parking lot for the last 15 years. It's been dark because I worked the game, football game and basketball games up there. And when you come out, you can all see.
See, if we can get
like that, because they don't have no light poles in the center of the parking lot. They're all around the back side or the front side. And you're not going to, until you put some light poles in the center or something.
They make those new, they make what they call a sports lighter that are actually made for baseball fields. You can actually take those exterior, and if you get the right size sports lighter to put on those, they will reach just like in an outfield of a baseball field. We can actually light it up without having to do that, but just by changing those from a regular, high pressure sodium and put those LED sports lighters up there that actually cast the light instead of just straight down.
Right.
And it's a possibility we can actually do it with the poles we have there. We just may have to change our lighting fixtures to do like the sports lighters that cast out instead of just straight down.
Do we have lights in the front of the building?
I don't think I've ever seen them.
we have a few, and sometimes they're working, sometimes they're not.
Okay. Well, yes, we'll definitely address that tomorrow. I will be out there. And like I say, we're visiting all three schools out there tomorrow. So, yeah, we can do that. So you just let me know when you're there, if you want to be there. If not, I'll go through and count, and I'll get the square footage and see what it would take with the sports lighters, because they cover so many square feet. So if we've got 10,000 square feet there and we got 6 poles, if we can get the lights to cover that area without having to add the poles.
Okay.
That sounds interesting.
Be fun.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
sir.
Shirley.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just checked with Linda. She doesn't have an update. So I would like to introduce, y'all have on here approving the 21-22 audit. That's incorrect.
Oh, we've got to get to that report, my Miss Tankia.
That's right.
Finance, Facility Services, and Insurance A, 6A, consider approving 2021-2022 audit as presented by Jennifer Hawkins with TCBT.
So it's actually the 22-23 report.
Yeah.
All off.
Have an offer by Mr. Fredo, second by Ms. Page. Discuss this item.
Okay, I'd like to introduce Jennifer Hawkins.
22-23.
Good evening. How are y'all doing today?
Good.
I see that they have the report up. I don't figure y'all want me to go through all 80 pages.
No, ma'am, just the high
We
point.
could be here about 3 hours.
Just the high points is normal.
I got you. I'm
That
just,
back page where the findings
just the
are.
black, so I really do want you to turn all the way to page 61. This is the summary of audit results. But before I get into that, I do like to make sure that I kind of talk about what an audit is for just a second, because there's a lot of misconceptions on what we do. So we are provided financial information from the school board staff, and then we compile that information and make sure that what we call materially stated. And then we also have 2 agreed upon procedures. So all school boards are required to do a performance measures. And then we have every audit is required to have what the legislative auditor is considered a best practice audit. So there's some different procedures that are done along with the audit that I'll go over that in a minute. But I'd just like to mention that a lot of people assume that an audit is going to find fraud or anything that is going wrong, and that's not, if we find that, we let you know, but that's not really what we're for, okay? All right, so on page 61, this is our summary of audit results. The first thing is that the financial statements had an unmodified opinion, and that is what you're wanting. That means that we feel like the financial statements presented are correct. There were 2 significant deficiencies in internal control, which I will talk about in just a second. There was no instances of noncompliance. We found no issues with federal funds. So we had an unmodified opinion on compliance for major programs. That's our federal funds. We looked at, y'all actually get $22 million in federal funds. We look at a portion of those. So we looked at the child nutrition cluster, the special education cluster, and the elementary and secondary school emergency relief funds, which is the ESSER funds. And we didn't find any issues there. The first finding was segregation of duties, which has been a repeat for quite a while. That really comes from the school activity funds. I will say that it was much improved this year. There was a lot of steps taken through the schools that we looked at, and they really did have a lot of better procedures in place. So it's just very difficult when you have one person, one secretary, that has the custody of the assets, and they have also, they record the transactions in the computer system. So that's where we look at to see if there's a possible issue. That doesn't mean there is one. That just means that we need to bring it up, that's always that possibility. The next finding we had, if you'll turn to the next page, during our audit, we became aware that the board was not receiving a full set of financial statements. We consider a full set of financial statements with a balance sheet, an income statement, and you know that I know y'all are getting a budgetary comparison with an income statement, but you need that balance sheet to be able to see what your available cash balances are and what your available fund balances are, to see what your equity is left over. So management and board need full access to that at least once a month. I've talked to Lee. I know y'all are working towards getting that. So that is a finding we had just because we felt like it needed to be something that is brought up. It needs to be addressed to where y'all get that full set of financial statements at the board meetings, you know, as soon as possible. So that was the 2 findings we had. Are there any questions so far? Nope. Okay. The next few pages, 65, 66, 67, those are performance measures that we're required to do. We found no issues with the performance measures. The back part of the report is the statewide agreed upon procedures. Like I said, every audit has to have these. So it's a lot of different things that the legislature believes, the legislative auditor believes are what is best practices. So they, go to 78. Yes. So when we find an issue on these agreed upon procedures, they're not always a finding, but what we have to do is report them as an exception. So one thing was on some ethics training, there was some ethics training that was not documented in the policies and procedures. That was the very first thing. So it's being done, but it's required to be in the policies and procedures. So I know y'all are looking at adding that. The next thing was, and this is a new requirement from the state, when you have a finding, an audit finding, they are requiring that you have a written update. Well, not requiring. They want you to have a written update on the resolution of those findings until it's completely resolved. So last year, y'all had the segregation of duties finding itself, and I know that Mr. Lee was giving y'all a verbal update, but a written update is what's the legislative auditor considers as best practices. So that was an exception there. The next thing was they want the bank reconciliations to have written evidence that someone is looking at those bank reconciliations beyond who is doing them. And that wasn't, we didn't have that. So that was an exception there. The next 4 exceptions, they all had to do with school activity funds, and so they did roll into that finding that we had on segregation of duties. Okay? Any questions there?
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Does someone sign off on the fact that, I guess,
The bank reconciliations? Yes, sir, that's what's supposed to be happening. Yes, sir. And there were some that were being signed off on, but not all of them. And so it just happened that the selection I pulled, they were not being signed off on.
Is that where the principal signs the reconciliations?
Yes, sir.
Those weren't being done by some?
It was at the school board central office level.
Okay, so the principal sign it off, and
Yes, sir.
someone at the central office must sign off as well?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
checks and balances?
Yes, sir. That's what it is. Okay, so we're going to jump to page 3. These things are everywhere, aren't they? So this financial statement is all of the funds of the school board together. And it also includes all fixed assets, all long-term debt, which includes other post-employment benefits, which is insurance that's going to be provided to your employees after they retire, and pension payables. So you'll see on this page 3 that assets did go up on themselves, and most of that was there was major upgrades made to buildings, and then the new technology building that's being funded by ESSER funds, that made that increase. If you'll look at your liabilities and you see the long-term liabilities, how it increased from $136 million to $198 million, the biggest portion of those amounts are from what we call OPEB payable, and that's insurance that's going to be paid to employees after they retire, and those amounts are calculated using assumptions, mathematical calculations, things like that from an actuary, and that amount by the school board is $96 million. And then the pension payable, that's how much teachers' retirement and school employees' retirement is underfunded by $68 million. That portion that's underfunded, that is the portion that's due from Natchitoches Parish School Board. Now, saying that, that's not an amount that we ever expect you to actually have to pay. It's just an amount you have to put on your books. Okay? You will see, I'm still on 3. Yep, still on 3. Okay, so you'll see, I'm going to go down to where it says changes in net position. You'll see that operating grants increased. That increase was from federal grants. The biggest increase there was the extra money that was received from those ESSER funds. That I think they end on September 2024. Is that right? There's a small increase in general revenue from 23 to 22, and that is actually where sales tax receipts increased for 23 compared to 22. And so your audit runs from July 1st to June 30th on those. Instruction, the expenses on instruction, what went up so much there is it went from $24 million to $44 million. That biggest increase there was from those pension payables, because last year they were, when the stock market crashed, they threw that expense in y'all's books. So that's why that's so high. I just want to mention that's why that's so different. The only other thing I really want to mention is if you'll go to page 14, pages 14 through 18 are actually, those statements do not include your long-term assets and your long-term debt. So they're more on a current resources. So here you'll see your general fund actually has a unassigned fund balance of $9,180,978, which was a decrease from the prior year on page 17 from $10,768,000. So it had a decrease of $819,000 this year. The biggest reason for that decrease was those salaries that was required, that increase in salaries is the biggest change. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Are there any questions? Okay. So the on page 50, I'm not going to go to that page or anything like that, but that is where you'll see your total federal funds. Y'all actually received $22 million in federal funds, but $8 million of that was associated with the ESSER funds. And that is supposed to go completely away. Those were associated with COVID, and they will go completely away after this September of 24. Okay, so we discovered on, what was January, really early in January, that the 22 audit was misstated. There was the E-rate funds where we bought all of the iPads for that year. It was a grant, but it was recorded incorrectly. So compliance testing and things like that we're not doing. So saying that, y'all will see me again in the next month or so, and I will represent 22's audit. But I am going to ask y'all if you will bring this for 22, if you got it, back to Mr. Lee, because we've got to shred the 22 audit so we can reissue it. That's just standards they make us do. Okay? All right, that's everything I have. Does anybody have any questions? Maybe I didn't bore y'all too bad. Okay. Thank y'all.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Hawkins. We have, we have to approve it. And we do have a motion by Mr. Fredo, I think, and a second by Ms. Page to do that. Roll call vote to approve this audit item. Ms. Revels?
I did. I changed it.
Should
You'll have
be.
to refresh your screen to see it, but the motion will be stated as motion to approve the 2022-2023 audit report as presented by Jennifer Hawkins. We ready for roll call?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Matoir?
Yes.
Mr. Benefiel?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
Ms. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Fredo?
Yes.
Mr. Nicholson?
Yes.
And Ms. Page?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. 6B, permission to offer for bid the replacement of existing central warehouse refrigeration systems for child nutrition. Mr. Wascom.
Yes,
I'll offer that, Mr. Watson.
Second.
okay, this is, Shauna mentioned it in her report last week. This is a request to go to bid, replacing all the the refrigeration and freezer units in the central warehouse for backup our food. Do y'all remember during Hurricane Laura, those all went down? This also includes a purchase of a generator to maintain electricity in this unit. This will wipe out about 9 to 10 of the existing systems that are about to fail on us anyhow, be a brand new one, and this would be paid for by ESSER funds.
Yeah, Mr. Shirley said it would eliminate 7 of the units and 7 startups, and so
7 or 9?
yeah.
7 startups.
So
This also will have some redundancy built in that even if 1 or 2 compressors fail, the other ones will kick in.
any more discussion on this permission to send out for bid?
ESSER funds, all ESSER.
Yes.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no.
6C, discuss and consider approval of the winning bid for the Natchez Parish School Board Central Office HVAC system replacement and accompanying improvements. All offer.
Second.
Okay. So I want to start off by saying why we're at the place we're at. I believe in late July or maybe early August, our HVA system, actually it may have been September. Either way, it was still flipping hot outside. 50% of the functionality of the AC unit went completely out. In order to do anything, we had to get these units you see back here. We have like 5 or 6 of them. And I can tell you, staff-wise, especially in payroll, they were asking to be able to go home early after lunch because it was getting so bad. So luckily, Esser's there to be able to save the day, because when we talk about air systems, that's about air quality, et cetera, which is a major part of Esser. In talking with the contractors, when you are, some of this stuff was done 40 years ago. When they get up in the attic space, or the whatever it's called, they're up in the ceilings, they're going to have to do some things, such as possibly change some walls because for airflow to go efficiently. Also, we've found out that there's massive gaps between the outside of the building and the rest of the building. That's why, actually, right there, you see a lot of water coming in and things of that nature, and it makes us very inefficient. So what we found out through working with our architect who's here today, and then also our winning bidder, is that there are associated things with the HVAC. The HVAC is a necessary item. I mean, I will not be able to have people in the months of the summer in this building working with how it's currently operating. I think I probably did a poor job originally because I called it a remodel. And a remodel automatically evokes luxury. You have money just kind of sitting there. We're going to remodel. We're going to do all these things. And I think that's improper, because really what we're asking to do the things that are associated with the HVAC remodel that will inherently be affected. For instance, walls, you'll see out there we have the old, I don't even know what that is, like wallpaper, but it's something else. And it's been there for 40 years. Much of that's going to get destroyed, so you're going to have to retexture and repaint. It's not that we want to repaint. I've gotten kind of used to the mute brown tones that cause mild depression, but we have to do that. We also know that the carpet here, at the least, I think some of it is 40 years old, but I think some of it may be a little younger, about 20 years old. We know that some of that will be damaged. So we have a moment here, and the winning bidder, DSW Construction, you see their total bid is $1.38 million. What we are asking is, separate from that, and I'm getting my little paper that Ms. Rochelle gave me, $196,000 of that total would have to come from general fund. To put it in other words, that means you are getting a $1.38 million upgrade of some of the space for 86%. I know it's not free, but it's 86% out of ESSER funds, which it'll just, it's not affecting local taxpayers. It's affecting us globally, and we won't get into all that fun stuff. But for 14% of that, we can have some significant upgrades, not to make us a luxury district, but to make us in some ways presentable. Lee, do you mind going to the pictures? When I say presentable, I don't mean like the other day. I went to DeSoto Parish to their school board for a meeting. I don't mean like their $7 million building, which is, I love it. It's great. It's beautiful, but we don't need that. Can you stick to one, please? I'm also not talking about the $12 million building that Red River has. I'm talking about, we have holes in the ceiling. You can also see the discoloring. Please go on the next one. You have to scroll down for that one. That is not new. We have exposed, conduit that's around there. There's no matching of things. Not that we're trying to be hoity-toity and everything and have beautiful walls, but I think everyone can agree that that looks pretty decrepit and doesn't really represent us in the right way. That is an area of the hallway where that 40-year-old, well, that's right there. That's over by teaching and learning, where it's just peeling away because of all the moisture that comes in.
So you're talking about the possibility of having mold.
This is the flooring throughout most of that section. I know most of y'all probably don't go over that way, but because we had filing cabinets that were kept on this floor for 40 years, and when they were moved, there are rust stains across all the floor. That's an even worse area.
Where's that located at?
That's in Mr. Legrand's office.
Oh.
And is there one other photo, Lee? More of the same. I can tell y'all, this is not something that I am the first person to tell you that a school board building should be the last priority of a district. But I will also tell you, we're doing great things. When I went into that DeSoto Parish building, the first thing I thought was, we can equal them in everything, but if I have an employee who's deciding between the two of us, they're going to go with them every single time, because they're going to walk down to my teaching and learning department and be like, oh, y'all have good scores, but this looks awful. Again, I know it's bad timing. And if there was an amount of money that I was proposing to come out of general that could fix all these other problems, I would not be proposing this. But what I'm telling you is, this is one-time injection, and it's a one-time in history where you're going to be able to do this at this cost, and you could approve just the HVAC. But what's going to happen is you're going to have an HVAC. We're already not looking great, but then you're going to have an HVAC system that works perfectly, and it's actually going to exacerbate how bad some of these things look, because they're going to go through, and just through natural construction, it's going to be made worse. We have worked tirelessly between Mr. Wascom and Ms. Rachel to get as much of this put on federal as possible. And in fact, we have one piece, the bathrooms, it still needs to be approved on the federal side. Based on history and everything, they have not told us this, but based on history, I have the expectation it will be approved. But that was another $129,000 right there. You know, they included the paint and things of that nature. This is just a few other things that will make this place look great, but for a bargain basement cost to the district. I don't know how else to tell it, except you'll never get this chance again to do it. And I understand the context of everything, and I understand optics, but we get criticized on a lot of things. And if this gets us to the next point in if we get to the next point in how we project ourselves as a district, and we get a little bit of criticism, I just think that's the nature of the job. But I do think this makes logical, rational, fiscal good sense.
The board, I agree with what the superintendent's saying, but let's look at it from this perspective. We're going to have to fix the stuff that's old and decrepit anyway. And if we wait, the cost in conjunction with this construction is going to be higher. This is a good opportunity. You were saying about the paint and the pricing of the paint is included where?
It's included in the federal.
So that's part of.
The main piece that's not included in the federal, Mr. Benefield, is going to be flooring. That's the main thing. And again, y'all seen the carpet. It's even worse in some areas. I didn't take pictures of those because you really kind of got to have the proper lighting to actually see all the stains and the musk and everything. But, you know, one other example is the curtains in my office when I got here. I tore them down and threw them in the dumpster. Those were 40-year-old curtains, and you can see they were in those things. We haven't touched this building in 40 years, 45 years. And I think all of us who own homes realize that you got to do something to keep a building up. And unfortunately, we haven't been able to. And now we have this moment in time where we can.
Well, just the sheer amount of traffic that comes through here. I mean, we don't have that in the hall.
And I'm glad you mentioned that, too, because the other thing that Mr. Wascom did in this plan is Ms. Page has come to me time and time again. She deals with the most sensitive of situations. And we talk about safety at schools, but there's a major concern about safety in this office. And part of this plan does produce a situation where the staff will be, I guess, for lack of any other way of putting it, in a safer position based on location of offices and functionality of how people can get in and not just go everywhere. Like I said, I was in DeSoto yesterday. Had to walk around the building 3 times to find the front door. They had 4 other doors, but you had to have a key fob to get in. And in order to get to an office, there was no way you were getting to an office. The only way you could get it is if you had entry. We're not going to that level, but we're doing some things here, very simple, cost-effective things that will prevent people from being able to access folks that they may be mad about, you know, whether it's me or Ms. Page or Mr. Wascom.
Our earlier discussion, Mr. Wascom, said that these figures were gonna come in between 150 to right at 200,000, so we're at 196.
196, well, right at 197.
So he was pretty close. And so none of these numbers are new. It's just the pleasure of the board or the choice of the board on whether we move forward with this or not. And so do we have any?
Well, I would like to offer for, does any, the architect and the contractor are here? Were there any other questions, particularly from the contractor, the architect? Is there any need?
So this is just a fixing some of the like the flooring and all that stuff that we keep away from the ones we bring in here, because I know I've never seen it before, but I'm glad I see it now. But it's just doing those cosmetics and things like that.
Correct. Right. There's no there's no heavy weight-bearing walls being moved. It's mainly.
For instance, I think what this will do. 2 days ago, Miss D. Jackson, who we all love and adore, came to me and said, "Hey, my roof's leaking, and I'm fine with that, but there's particulates of what's it called? Ceiling and whatever it is coming in through my office. I feel like I'm going to be inhaling that stuff. Can I go?" And so we had to find a space for her, and luckily someone was out that day, so we said, "You can use their office so you don't inhale all the particulate matter." I would hope that at the least what this does is prevent stuff like that from occurring.
So is there any kind of like 3D design that will show us how it actually looks?
They presented. I do have I can bring it up.
You had a blueprint a couple of months ago.
I thought we presented
It was
that.
a rough draft at that time.
I saw.
We had the final.
And we're not doing nothing to the outside. No sort of facade work to make it pretty or anything like that. Everything outside stays the same.
Everything just on the inside.
Y'all remember the before and after of this room we're in now?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's the change.
So we still have a trash can back here catching rainwater.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that is a
members
gutter
of the public
problem.
that
The
never seen
gutter
it.
has rotted out right over there, and we're going to get that fixed. But yeah, those are some of the issues that we have.
So in the plan you presented, the blueprint, some offices would actually move and things.
Correct. We are going to relocate. We have offices that need to be secure. Like I will say this: you can stand out in the hallway and listen to everything going on inside the superintendent's office if you listen to it. You can also do kind of the same thing with human resources. Those are 2 offices you don't want that to have happen. We need to have the ability. So I'm moving some of the offices and moving some of the. You also, it's not good to have a hallway to nowhere. If you go down this hallway right here, it just dead ends into a window. That's not against. So we're going to fix all the kind of rules.
And it's also coming up with current ADA compliance.
That's right. We are coming up with that
because this building was built prior to a lot of those laws being enacted, and when you do a major upgrade like an HVAC of this magnitude, they make you upgrade some of the ADA compliance, which again, luckily for us, all the ADA pieces would come out of federal dollars as well.
Yeah, like for instance, this door here is 31-inch door. A handicapped person can't get through it. It has to be removed and not come back.
It's got to be a 3.0 door.
It's got to be a 3.0 door. Well, 3-foot door, 36-inch door. Just to let you know what he means by 3.0 door. So it's plenty high. It's just not wide enough.
Handicap.
Well, it's yes, ma'am, we are, but they don't make you. Yeah, you get grandfathered in unless you make major changes.
That's what triggered a lot of this. So once you replace AC, you trigger a repair a significant amount. It triggers the federal law that we have to then come up into complete ADA compliance.
That's all included.
So that is included.
Correct.
Not the extra money that we're talking about.
It would have to go commercial with the lever. It'll have
Luckily for us, the way Esser looks at it is they say, okay, you're doing this, but by doing this, if it knocks down this other domino, they pay for that usually, typically as well. So, for instance, we built that building and they required more parking, so they pay for the parking lot as well.
So does the insurance and thing get involved with stuff like that?
No, that's just regular maintenance. Insurance will not pay for that.
No. I'm saying like the insurance on my insurance said that I had to come with a door that, just like you said, accessible, that you push it down because we had residential. And so they were going to.
Insurance won't pay for any of that, no. No, that's just, it was built in 79. All the ADA rules were passed in 1986. So it was before those numbers were in. So we were part of grandfathered in. The moment you do a certain percentage of repair to a building, it triggers all the ADA compliance. You have to come in.
They didn't pay us either, but we had to go get those doors fixed. That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
A substantial portion of this, something that we have to do anyways?
Yeah, you can see by the hose coming down in the back.
This is not all just elective.
That's correct.
Right, okay.
The first, so we broke it in for y'all.
86% of it is mandatory, and I'd say the 14% is the elective.
Okay, so this right here is for the AC, the ceiling, painting, all the basic general stuff. This right here is for the bathroom. Now remember, we are having to expand the bathroom. Like right now, you go in our bathrooms, we don't have a handicap bathroom. Okay, in this building, and that's a problem for potential handicapped people working here. This portion of the bid is a general fund. The bulk of that is flooring. Mark, what is it? Flooring and what else? There's a few little components there. Can't remember. So it's electrical flooring that relates to what we're doing. So in some relocation, we're having to move some electrical outlets and stuff, and that's in this. And we are responsible for that. There's no way we can justify that for federal funds to pay.
And I want to say, one of the things that we were concerned about that wasn't even in this bid was we would have to move out of this building. And as much as I would like to, get Ms. Page and HR and everyone to do that ourselves, that probably wasn't going to happen. And instead of paying a moving company, Lee has, being the fiscal man he is, he's reached out to the sheriff's department, and they are going to provide
some trustees.
Some trustees to do that for us. So we are looking for ways to trim this in every way, shape, and form.
Correct. So we'll be moving into the new IT building until this project's completed.
Philip, how long will this project last overall?
Hang on, Philip, come on up to talk.
Hey, Dr. Eloy, can I add one thing real quick?
Yes, sir, please.
When they remove this ceiling to replace the AC unit, about 70 miles of copper cable are going to fall out of there from 40 years of internet that's been run. They are going to have to rip all that out, and there's basically no way we can reuse in any logical sense everything that's up there. My department in-house is going to rerun all that cable, but part of that is also the contractor's cost of putting those drops back in the wall for us. So that's a chunk of something that even if we chose not to go through with the phase 3, it would be required. Otherwise, no one in here is going to have any internet.
So we're talking about additional monies to take care of that?
No, ma'am. The total price is that 1.38, and then
Includes what he just mentioned?
yes, ma'am. Yeah.
This is the complete price for all of that.
He's just saying that wasn't going to be paid out of federal, but it's still obviously necessary.
How's everybody doing? I'm Philip Mitchell with DSW Construction. You have a question, Billy?
Yeah, from start to completion, how long do you think the project will take?
If we can get in here, from what I'm understanding, it would be probably, the beginning or the middle of April before we can get in here. If we can get in here for that, we should be out of here by the, September sometime. The lead time on some of the electrical equipment is a big deal. I was told today that the longest lead item would be 15 weeks, which if that's the case, then hopefully that's not going to be that big of an issue. That came from the electrician. I haven't checked with the HVAC folks yet, but hopefully, during this time that we're waiting for the other building to get ready and where we can get in here after everybody gets moved out, then hopefully we can take care of some of those long lead time items.
So to let y'all know how this will go, we would wait, once we get occupancy of the new building, we use the trustees and our own crew and stuff, we start moving over. Soon as we have completely moved out, the asbestos remediation will then take place in the bathroom, okay? That is also going to be a part of this bid as well in the 129. That's in addition to the 129, but it's paid for by federal funds. That it's somewhere between $3,000 and $10,000. So we've estimated $10,000 to do the remediation in the bathroom. All right. After that, then they get going, but they need to be complete. We need to have the asbestos remediation finished before the contractor takes possession. So it's kind of a handshake. We leave, asbestos remediation comes in, and then they come in after that. But we're going to move as fast as possible.
Well, the reason we're meeting on the 25th is in a result of these bids. So, yeah, we're well aware of how this works. It's just looking at the timing.
Did get 3 success. I'm very happy, and this does meet federal guidelines. We need at least 3 bids, and we did get 3 bids. You'll see how tight it was. Being within $100,000 of each other essentially is very tight bidding.
Board members, any questions for Mr. Wascom or Mr. Mitchell? Or I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
Mark Prevost, he's the designer.
Mr. Mark.
Happy to be here. I'm Mark Prevost with Prevost Design, and I think another real benefit that you get from this project is your ADA restrooms will be totally up to date. Very expansive and roomy, and accommodate disabled people all over the building, and so that's a real benefit to have in the project.
I don't disagree with everything that's been said, and I think the buildings do upgrades, but like Dr. Eloy said, it's bad timing, and I think that has to be considered. We're looking at a budget deficit in the plan in there, the one that keeps us out of the negative. Next year, we would only be saving, what, $400,000? Is that correct? On Plan A?
Repeat that again.
On Plan A, we would only be saving $400,000 for next year or the year after?
For next year, but this would be this year's budget, so it's
right,
one time, yeah.
Right, but I mean, $400,000, and we're looking at spending $200,000.
This $200,000 is actually going to be spread over this year's budget and next year's budget, depending on when the bills are being paid.
Right, but it's still coming out.
Yes, sir. It's coming out.
Yeah, that's
coming out either this year or next year. That's correct. But this is one-time money and an opportunity. I will tell you that after September 30th, at one point, the federal portion disappears permanently.
Well, board members, it's not very often that we get the opportunity to piggyback on another project and get the value with the cost. At this time, it sounds like a good opportunity for us. And I understand what you're saying, Mr. Fradu, and I agree with it. But the opportunity here is for us to be good stewards of the public's money, and I think we get a lot of bang for the buck here.
I'm like Chad, I agree with absolutely everything we've said, 100%. But it's hard for me when we hadn't made a decision yet on some other big things that are coming up, when it's going to be about the money that we have available. We're talking about $200,000. I mean, am I wrong in saying that? We're about to talk about closing down a school and the money that it's going to take to keep that school open, and we're looking at different options. I don't agree with anything that was just said, and it makes all the sense in the world right now if we can tag that on to do that, but it's hard to say let's spend that before we at least decide on the other issue.
Okay, so let me rephrase it this way. The system is broken. It's already broke. We will not be able to occupy this building if we don't do something immediately. It won't happen.
So that's I get that. I agree.
The construction that has to happen will destroy the carpet. That's one of the reasons I brought Philip here. The carpet is not salvageable. It has to be replaced. Federal funds will not pay for it. There's no choice. It's either approve the general portion or just let it go. But we still have a broken AC system. These little fixes we have are not going to work. I mean, I don't know what else I can say. It's broken. It has been, we have kicked the can on this AC system here. It's 4 years past. Those units out there were put in 2000. They last 20 years. It's 2024. They failed one side of it failed this last summer. It's over. It's broken. You can't get parts to fix it.
Lee, I don't think anybody disagree with that. I absolutely, it's got to happen. Like, the AC has to be replaced.
Carpet has got to be, it's not salvageable. We can't.
Can we do
no matter
anything?
what, we have to approve something. And the bulk of this is flooring. Of that 197,000, almost large portion of it's flooring and moving some electrical stuff and coming up. We have really gotten it down to where the federal funds are paying for the vast majority of it. I do understand, but this can has been kicked long before I was here about getting some of these upgrades done in this building.
We have to have a professional
Can we do
workplace.
anything
We do.
without touching the $200,000 first?
Okay, so the AC is so bad, you're going to have to spend the portion. Okay, so let's go back to the bid. To answer your questions, this $1,054,000 is going to have to be spent no matter what.
Okay. What can we do with that?
Now we have the federal funds for $129,000 to give us some new bathrooms, but I'm telling y'all all this. I mean it sincerely, and I have these gentlemen to back us up. The carpet, which is the bulk of the price of the $196,000 of the flooring replace, it is not going to live through this construction. We have no choice but to proceed with the construction.
No, you
It has to be done. I mean, I wouldn't want to work under these circumstances. We just got to use
It
the funding
does.
that's available if it's not going to affect. It has to be done. And we just have
But does it have to be done right
Make a
now?
Yes, ma'am. We are barely going to be able. We have to spend these federal funds by
No,
September
I'm not
30th.
talking about that part. I'm talking about what can be done without touching the $200,000.
We would have a concrete floor. Working conditions would not be, the professional appearance of what we try to do is not going to be conveyed at all.
I mean,
Then you would have, after you do all that, then you would have a shut down building because the Handicap Association is not going to let you open it up without having your bathroom handicap access. And if you open it up without that, y'all want to play a game with handicap.
That's
I know all about handicap with that. Play a game with them.
well, how long they been playing a game with the handicapped people?
Well, they don't have to do it because it grandfathered in because you're not doing remodeling. Most buildings, if you don't do no kind of remodeling, whatever, just like here, if we wouldn't do no remodeling, the bathrooms could stay the same. But once you start with your AC, you start remodeling, then the handicap, and you have to go by the specs of the state and the federal government once you start remodeling. That's just like with your house. If you start remodeling your house, you got to get permits from the city, you got and all that. And that's the same thing you're running into here. You have to go by guidelines.
Yes,
We
sir.
got to prioritize
But
according to guidelines. That's basically
the
what
bathrooms are happening,
you're
y'all.
saying.
The bathrooms are being paid for by federal money. That's not what people are asking questions about. They're asking questions about the floor and the internet drops and some changing some outlets.
So I don't want to beat a
Bathrooms are going to
dead
happen.
horse. I don't disagree with anything Mr. Fredu or Mr. Nicholson is saying. And Lee said it a few times. I'm going to say it again in a different way, but I think it's the last time we need to say it, is the other day I asked our contractor, I said, okay, because just for this conversation, anticipating this conversation, I said, okay, so we do the HVAC. Will the flooring survive? Because you're right. If the flooring survives, we can do with some ugly 1970s carpet. He said maybe some, but not all, but I can't guarantee anything. So then you're in a situation where you do all this, and literally if we say we're not using any of the general, you're going to have two issues. You're going to have either patchy carpet or cement carpet with probably some sticky stains where we've scraped it up, or I would say no internet in your main building of a school district. So I don't disagree with y'all. I just don't know how we will be able to function. I'm sure we could function with cement, although that would look how everyone knows it'll look. I don't know how we would function without the drop lines for internet. I mean, 90% of, yeah, I don't think we could. And so listen, I think everyone knows kind of where they're at with that, because we can keep repeating this piece over and over again. And it's not my place, but I think we're almost just at a point for.
We are, but one thing to add, guys, and Superintendent Eloy said it earlier, we're in a competition every day with surrounding districts for certified personnel that walk in that door. And when they walk in and we have a building that's shoddy and doesn't look, and we're not asking, they're not asking for something that is going to be pricey or whatever. People that work in this building deserve to have a fitting workplace, and that they're not like a concrete floor or whatever. It just doesn't make sense. And for us to even think about not having internet connections and drops, it doesn't make sense. And yes, there is money going to be spent on this, but guys, we've got sometimes to spend money to keep in operation, and we know that. Any more comments on this? Any more discussion?
Yes. One more thing before we move on. I'm glad that you brought up employee morale. I mean, it makes sense to do the whole job at one time, and it's a hard sell to an employee come to work every day on a half-glued, half-concrete floor. Like, I really think we need to do the whole entire job based on the employees' morale that have to show up here every day.
And I agree with that too, but you can go to the schools and you can go to Nax Junior High and that's like a dungeon. So, I mean, we talking about employee morale and renovating. Go renovate Nax Junior High.
We've invested $5 million.
But it still look the same.
I know.
It should have stayed closed.
It look the same.
That's another argument for another day, Mr. McTwire, but it is the money pit.
And the $5 million that we invested there.
It is the money pit.
When is the last time we invested money in this building other than this room that we're all sitting in? This nice
And I agree that this building does need to be updated, but I think we maybe need to think about let's doing things what's decent and in order, and maybe get through with like the major issue that's on the agenda, and then come back to this. Because I mean, honestly, and I'm not being like sufficient, whatever.
You're gonna
anything, but people been working here for years. People have been coming in here for jobs for years. I haven't heard anybody say Nash Parish School Board is broke down. That's our central office look a mess.
They may get that opportunity,
but they still come and work, and they not working.
Kept it hid.
But you can't prove a negative. How many more would come?
Right.
And we agree that it needs to be updated. But I agree with them that it is bad time.
I agree that the work needs to be done, but what I'm scared of happening is if we say, yes, we spend the $200,000 here, but then people a month from now are saying, there's nowhere that we can find money to do this. Right? That's my only concern. I would feel then like I was duped almost, right? Like, I agree this needs to happen, and I'm all about spending this money and doing it now because I feel like it needs to be happen. But then I think we all need to be open to discussion on saving somewhere else. If it can't be had here and this has to happen, that's cool. But
I will sacrifice Lee Wascom's salary for the next 2 years. I have no problem.
That's big of you, Dr. Stewart.
I would tell you that, Micah, according to you, there's a difference between talking about operational money and then one-time money. This is a one-time investment. That is a very different thing. Like if you give a salary raise, you're not taking that raise back. So if you commit to a $2 million salary raise, you're committing to it for the rest of time.
Right.
That's more of the discussion that we're going to have in a month. It's about ongoing cost that is going to be recurring. We here are talking about a one-time investment on a fixed item that we will not have to keep reinvesting every single year. There's been no money essentially in this building spent in 45 years, other than some obvious, they obviously at some point replaced the AC system back in 2000. but everything has been stretched to the limit with this building, and
Well, Lee, when you first
I
came
just
on-
I need the board financially to understand there's big difference between commitment to operational, day-to-day operational, ongoing salaries than talking about a one-time investment. Because like I've been very careful with the ESSER funds to make sure we invest in one-time things, and we're not having. So like we built the building next door for $4.2 million. We're not spending $4.2 million on that building every single year. But the other issues you're talking about discussing in the future are about ongoing expenses we will all have continuously.
I get that. I mean, it feels like, at least though, that it's a more like, when we're looking at stuff that y'all present us, it shows next year's money, right? Like, and we're gonna be X amount in the hole next year. And so when we're trying to chip away at that X amount in the hole and figure out a plan, you know, to make it work, every penny feels like it's important. We don't even have to say this building hasn't been touched in 45 years anymore. We all know it, right? Like, I mean, we can see it. We know it needs to be done. It's just the timing of it is so crazy. And people will be asking and are asking all these questions, and we're the ones that have to field all of these answers, right?
They will ask those questions.
The possibility of got asbestos, and we have possibly mold, and it's something that has to be done. And if it's, I don't have any problem, if it's not affecting academics and causing us losing any money, educational wise for these children, and it needs to be done. We gotta find a way to do it. It's just, you know, you got to think about the humane aspect of it. I would not, knowing that we haven't touched this building in 40 years, and these people are not living, I'm sorry, they're here 8 hours a day.
It did just about live in.
And it's something that has to be done. Working conditions, I would be complaining about working conditions, and I would want to leave and go to a location in DeSoto or Red River where they have oil and gas mines. You know it's going to be taken care of. It has been taken care of. We need to do it.
Ms. Page, you had something?
I do have something. I know the simple solution sounds, to me, the simple solution is if we don't do it now, it's going to cost us twice as much later, and it's going to have to be done eventually. So if we've got, to me, I think we have to do it now while we can piggyback on everything else. It just makes sense that it's going to cost us double if we do it later.
If there's no other discussion, board members, I'd like for us to vote on this item. Ms. Revels, can you do a roll call vote? And a yes means we move forward, a no means we stop.
Approve the bid.
Yes.
The alternate, the total bid, right? Correct. Yeah.
Mr. Matoir?
Yes.
Mr. Benefiel?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Ms. McGaskey?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
No.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
Ms. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Fredo?
No.
Mr. Nicholson?
No.
Ms. Page?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, board members. Ms. Tankia,
Yes.
you have one item left.
6D, discuss election announcement for consolidating taxing district number 7. Mr. Fredo.
Can I offer it myself? I'll offer.
Second.
So as
I'm
we
sorry,
all,
Mr. Fredo, did we need a motion on this, or is this just an announcement?
It's just an announcement.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Lee can just read it.
Yeah, it just says discuss.
This is discussed.
So Lee reads it, and then I think y'all discuss, right?
Let's go ahead and leave it as it. Offer by Mr. Fredo, a second by Ms. Tankia. Palmer.
Okay, so go ahead and read it.
Yes.
Okay. Notice is hereby given that at its board meeting to be held Thursday, February 15th at 2024 at 5 p.m. at its regular meeting place, the Natchitoches Parish School Board Office, Boardroom 310 Royal Street, Natchitoches, Louisiana. The Parish School Board of the Parish of Natchitoches, State of Louisiana, plans to consider adopting a resolution ordering and calling an election to be held in the Consolidated School District of Number 7 of the Parish of Natchitoches, State of Louisiana, to authorize the levy of an ad valorem tax therein.
And Mr. Lee, you've already taken care of.
It's been announced in the Thursday's paper.
And
so it
so-
gives us the 20 days.
In our official, what we call it? That's it. Thank you, Reverend. And it's already in our official journal, and now it's been announced publicly at our meeting.
Correct. So now we would take action at the next board meeting on February 15th.
And at that board meeting, there will be more specificity to what would actually appear on the ballot.
Now, who gonna pay for this election?
It would be District 7.
So District 7 BRE, District 7, to pass the hat, District 7 what?
Okay.
You're saying to put on the ballot. Is that
Yes.
that's what you're asking?
To put on the.
Yeah, to have the election, who's gonna pay for it? But because you can't take it out of BRE money, because that's
so
who is gonna come out of?
If there's no, yeah, it's true. You're right. It probably had to come out of general funds then.
It can't come out of operation. Can't come out of BRE.
It can't come out of BRE because that's not dealing with.
It's not authorized through a BRA. You're right.
And that amount would be around 8,000. Is that what it typically is?
Yeah,
what
my
we-
understanding from David Stamey is around 8,000.
Right.
Because it's being piggybacked on top of an existing election, it was likely to be slightly less than that number.
Right.
So there's another election.
You can call a special election. The number Chad is quoting or referring to is how much would it cost to run just a special election just for this vote all by itself.
Right.
And I think David Stamey quoted $8,000. Now that we're piggybacking it on top of an existing scheduled election, it's probably likely to be cheaper than that.
This isn't a scheduled election date, Pastor Harris, by
In
the
April,
state.
there is an election.
Okay, so it's probably something.
It's not special election. It is.
And I'm sorry, Lee, did we get word from the State Bond Commission? Because remember, that was part of the.
Yeah, but if you looked at my schedule, it said in there, pray the State Bond Commission decides to meet. The State Bond, because of the winter weather, the State Bond Commission was not able to receive all the necessary stuff from other districts. They are considering, actually on February 15th, everything that was up to the 16th of January. However, they will now do another state bond meeting after the 15th of February to consider everything from that, because they realize that the winter weather we just had eliminated some election possibilities. So they're going to have another one. Then it would go to to the Secretary of State on March 6th. And then March 6th, it would then be put on the ballot at that point. So we all believe, Brennan Black and I in discussing, we all believe that the State Bond Commission will be meeting and allowing this on the April election.
But okay, I would like, before we put it on the election, where is the money gonna come from to pay for it? Because if it's coming out of general fund, why should we take money, we just arguing about redoing this building out of general fund, but we wanna put general fund to throw on an election?
So there are
benefit the whole parish, it just benefits one section.
There are members in the community of Consolidated District 7 that if we get that number, there's talks of raising those funds if that's the only way the board would allow it on the ballot.
Is that what we normally do, though?
No, like if you have a bond,
We put, so for Consolidated District 11, that was brought up, that was out of the general fund, so it's always been done before.
Well, that's what I'm asking.
No, that's not true. That's not true. If you have a bond, let's say you pass a bond, the cost of that election comes out of the bond money that is raised.
Well,
in the event that it's
was not a
successful,
bond, right?
Okay,
Is that now?
Consolidated District 11 we just brought up not long ago, that was not a bond, right?
But that wasn't.
That was
voted on
just
by the people.
consolidating.
Yeah, that wasn't voted on by the people. That wasn't put. That was just a board vote.
Right, but then there was an election was that to increase BRE for Consolidated 11?
It was an in lieu of. So he's asked the in lieu of. Well, we paid for
One
it
that
last
was
time,
messed
but
up and
yeah.
we got to redo.
So
that's my question.
where did that one come out of? Is what he's asking.
That'll ultimately,
paid out of.
Be paid out of general funds. Yeah, it's not a tremendous amount of money there. It's once again it's somewhere between $4,000 and $6,000.
I don't think we should make a community pay for something that hasn't historically come out of their own pockets. If that's something that the board is normally paid,
I may
don't
be
know why
able,
this would be
I
different.
may be able to see if BRE would be able to pay for it out of that district, because there is a limitation about that may be embedded in the law that says that the election can be paid out. The election expenses are supposed to be paid out of the district that held it.
Yeah, but Lee, and
that-
we
I
said
don't
that
have-
every one of those are constructed, they're crafted different.
Yeah, everyone's.
That may be have some, but on a normal BRE, I don't know.
My understanding is that the district that held the election pays for it. So
If it passes, it would be collected from that district. If it doesn't, it comes out to general.
However, we've historically done it. Is how
it would come out of that district as well from some other.
Lee, tell me if this is the difference, because, and I might be totally off base, so bear with me as I walk this logic through. The consolidated District 11 was at the impetus of the board. We decided to do that because we thought it was best for the entire district, and so that came out of general. This seems to be an initiative of that community, and so am I wrong in the sense that that may be some of the difference, or am I totally off base here?
I would like to get clarification before we go down a rabbit hole. I think that the district, I've always been under the impression that the district that held the election paid for the election. Even if it's like BRE funds, since it's for that district, BRE funds pay for the election that elected those BRE funds. So the question is, if it failed, but see, I have, let's say you have leftover bond money out of District 7, you have to put it into another District 7 purpose. Let's say you come down and you have like $20,000 left in a $8 million bond. It's $20,000 unspent. I have the ability to relocate it as long as it goes into a fund that is also for only the purpose of District 7. I can do that and have done that. Because it's something like, for instance, we had the old bond. You remember the 2012 bond that just got paid off, and so you have the ability to, if there's any residual money, to move it over. But it can't go to the general fund, and the general fund can't come to its rescue. So it has to stay within. In my understanding, the way we've always done these elections is that the district that had the election paid for it.
But Lee, what I'm saying, I agree with what you're saying, but we just said that we paid out of general for that District 11. Was that a mistake, or was that why was that different? I think is what we're trying to understand.
You're creating a new district.
I would like us also, Ms. Kanika, to take a look at your motion and voting. It says motion to approve adopting a resolution ordering and calling for an election. I think this was just an announcement. Right. So you might want to rephrase that.
Because it's the February. We want to announce something. We just got through arguing about what we knew where the money coming from, but this here we getting ready to do something. We don't even know where the money coming from.
Can I clarify that?
We putting the cart in front of the horse. We calling for something that we don't even know where the money gonna come from, or it's gonna come out of general fund, or what. So we need to know before next month, before we put this vote to put it on as to be elected. We need to know where the money coming from.
I agree, and I was not prepared for this question in this detail. I will have that done by, Brendan Black and I will be speaking tomorrow. I will send it out to the board, the answer to your question, Emil. Okay, because you're right, the BRE funds are not written to pay for election expenses, but I think the mere fact of the election expense, it's embedded in the fact that the election happens. The question is, who pays for the event the election fails? So let me get the clarification on all that, and I will email it to the board tomorrow morning. That's on my list.
Would you mind asking him as well, should this be handled at a policy level so we're not arguing with every election that comes up who pays for what?
That's a good question.
And so we don't have to sit around and say, well, I think we did this or I think we did that.
Makes sense.
The policy committee is meeting regularly to rewrite that policy book, and it may be a good time to include that.
Clarify.
If you'll just ask him, is it normally handled at policy level?
Well, I will ask that question.
It's a great suggestion, Ms. Phelps. Okay, Ms. Kanika.
It may not be updated on your screen, but please tell me if this is what you want. Motion to approve an announcement calling for an election in Consolidated School District 7.
Could you repeat that, please, ma'am?
Motion to approve an announcement calling for an election in Consolidated School District 7.
Okay, so we're just approving an announcement.
An announcement.
Not ordering.
Right.
Okay. All right, board members, we have a motion and a second for an announcement for Consolidated Taxing District 7. And this is announcement only, that's not ordering an election, or it's not guaranteeing an election. It's just the announcement that Mr. Lee read that we know exists. And so I'd like for us to do a roll call vote. Ms. Kanika?
Mr. Matoir?
No.
Mr. Benefield?
Yes.
Mr. Harris?
Yes.
Mrs. McGaskey?
Yes.
Ms. Palmer?
Yes.
Ms. Phelps?
Yes.
Ms. Harvey?
Yes.
Mr. Fradu?
Yes.
Mr. Nicholson?
Yes.
And Ms. Page?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, ma'am.
That concludes finance.
Ms. Palmer, thank you very much. Ms. Page, it looks like you've lost one of your hearing officers. You had 6?
Yeah.
You need 5? You're under the wire? Okay. Any discussion on hearing officers?
Move that we approve the list of hearing officers.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. Thank you.
I was voting on the way the motion read. Motion to approve a revised list of hearing officers.
We can bring it back.
If you need to revise them again, we'll do it again, Ms. Page. We know how hard it is to find them. All right, board, y'all all agree?
Yeah.
So the list that's attached is not the revised list?
Oh.
No. I think we go with that list for now because we have to be in compliance, we have 5, and we'll bring you when we get the replacement.
Thank you. Ms. Phelps, can you take the executive report in Mr. Danzy's absence?
Absolutely. Executive report, item 8A, discuss staff
Voted on.
plan to address 24-25 budget. Dr. Eloy. Yes.
No, it's not.
No, just
so
discuss.
I don't have to do a motion or anything. No, so this, and I think we talked a lot about, obviously last week, a lot about the Goldana piece. So if.
Hold on, Superintendent.
Yes, sir.
This item is one that continues the discussion from last Thursday, so we do not need a motion.
And there's no.
And we will not, there will not be a vote tonight, there will not be a vote next Tuesday when we start the February meeting, but there will be a vote in the following, was it 15th? February 15th meeting. So there will not be a motion or a second required to discuss this item. This is pure information for the board and the public. Thank you.
So, the plan includes really about 6 items. And there is a difference between A and B based on the Goldana discussion. I think if the board wants to discuss the Goldana piece, obviously we can, but I feel like that's a little bit in limbo based on what y'all just did with the tax discussion. So the other things that we've talked about, Lee, can you please move it up a little bit, please? Nope, that's not up. In my mind, that's down. Yeah. Oh, too far. You're killing me. Okay, right there. A little further down. All right. So I'm not going to speak about the Goldana piece today. I'm going to speak about the other pieces because I don't think we really gave those attention last week because we were talking about probably the most important thing. So central office payroll efficiencies, and I'm sorry, Lee, go down to Plan A's budget. Okay, so with that, central office payroll efficiencies, this is something that what we've looked at, we have the ability without supplanting to make some changes in budgets from general to federal. Some of these things probably should have been done years ago because people actually kind of fit in better. Their role fits in better with a federal program. In order to do this, we have done this before with Teaching and Learning Department. We abide by the supplanting rules, and we make sure that's kosher, and we go through with that. There's ways to do it. We've shown that before, and we can do that. And we believe that's going to get us around $500,000 in efficiencies, $464,000 and some change to be exact. Strong grant indirect costs. Hey, ESSER's going away. We got 20% on ESSER. Strong grant gives us 8.46%, but that is newfound money. So you're looking at around $472,000 and some change. That is newfound money. And then also some other grant monies that we will come into contact with, so $64,000. Lee has already talked to Tim Page over at the tax assessor's office, and we do, based on his estimations, we will be getting another $500,000 in property tax. And then the biggest thing is staff adjustments. Through attrition, and I'm going to say this every time, and board members, I hope you say this every time you're asked a question. We know every year, historically, Ms. Page has been here for a while. She knows that even in our best of years, we're going to have probably, 30, 40 people who retire, move, resign, decide to do the Eat, Pray, Love thing, move to Thailand, whatever it is. And so with staff adjustments, we believe, that's probably 23 teaching slots, represents around with payroll and benefits about $100,000 a pop. It's not exact, but some are over that, some are under that, so it kind of averages out. We can do that. Now, what does that mean? That does mean in some areas you're going to see some slight increases in class sizes. But when we did this, simulated this already at different schools, we realized we're talking about going from a second grade class with maybe 17 kids to a second grade class with 22 or 23 kids. I can tell you, a teacher may not be excited about that, but that is a very manageable number, and we're still trying to stay into manageable numbers. I could get you a lot higher, but I don't believe in this discussion we want to sacrifice student learning by going up to 31, 32, things of that nature.
State allowed.
Exactly. Transfer of items for general to BRE. In our discussions with Stephen Stanfield, who's helped us do the budget, he made us aware of the fact that many of our BREs were written for operational and repair equipment. Equipment definition and operation definitions allows us to be a little more flexible with what we charge to BRE. Historically, there has been a tradition in this district of these things go to BRE, these things don't. Some of that was based in law and hey, you're not supposed to do this, but a lot of it was just based on this is what we do, this is what we don't do. And what it ended up being is y'all have all heard the story about the grandma's ham. She always cut the ends off of it, and her daughter did it, and then her granddaughter did it. And they said, well, Grandma, why'd you do that? She goes, because my pan was too short, and that's the only reason why. But you thought you had to do it. That's with our BRE. We have now realized, after talking to Stephen, then we went and talked to our auditor, then we talked to Brennan Black, and initially that number was $1.4 million. I told y'all last week I had to change it because after talking to Brennan, some of our BREs, like y'all just discussed, are written in ways that don't have operations in it, so you could not apply that. So I had to take $400,000 out of that and get it to where it is now. And so that's where all that is. Lee, if you'll go back up to Plan A away from the budget, just the plan or whatever. So what we're saying there, because I put all that in there, but there's more detail in and of that. BRE already talked about. Central office budget changes, talked about that. Staff adjustments, I talked about that. The other part of staff adjustments, though, besides just going to several schools and saying, hey, you may absorb a teaching position when this person retires, or you may absorb 2 positions, is the consolidation of NVA and NPTCC. There's a natural kind of connection between, it's both alternative means of education. They both have very small footprints right now. And so to have 2 separate staffs that have 2 separate custodians and administrations and all the things that are extra when you have another facility, we are in some ways wasting money there. We would combine those 2 without any change to the student experience. You'd still have a virtual school, which, I mean, I know Pastor Harris is a huge proponent of, and I am too, because we have students who literally come to virtual school because they can't function in a school building because their anxiety is so bad, or they have a long-term illness. This allows them to do it. Doesn't change how it is, but we can be a lot more streamlined, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Go all the way up to number 1. Another piece of this is, and I know this, y'all are going to, many people have asked me, they're like, why is this even a part of this? Is to remove the junior high from Lakeview and put junior high at Fairview Alpha. Well, when I'm looking at, this is a big thing we're talking about. And I don't like to do a big thing 1 month and then 3 months later be like, hey, let's blow things up again. This is a time and a place where it is possible to make a change over there. I talk all the time about, I see two big kind of spots in our district that we really have to focus on. The city schools, and hey, they're doing great. They're moving. They're on track. We have no Fs. And the other one is District 7. Fairview is on the move. And obviously Goldana right now is kind of, for lack of any other way of putting it, in limbo because of these discussions. But we know of our concerns, parish-wide, board-wide, about Lakeview. And I just believe academically, socially, developmentally, that it makes more sense to have 7th and 8th graders hanging out with 5th and 6th graders as opposed to hanging out with sometimes 18 and 19-year-olds. I'm totally aware, and me and Mr. Nicholson, me and Mr. Fredu, and I think me and Pastor Harris have talked about the idea, well, that empties out Lakeview. I've talked to Lee about rebranding Fairview, making it the Fairview, making their colors to align with Lakeview, making their mascot to align with Lakeview. Doesn't have to happen, just things possibilities. Making them have all the things we're talking about. Lee has told me out of that BRE, just BRE, he thinks, I think you said about $100,000, $150,000 little budget to make that school, to make Fairview really reflect that new identity. I also have told you that not only does it culturally, we believe, help Lakeview and Fairview, but we also believe that it would inevitably help them in their SPS academically. I think I told you that Lakeview would have been 5 points higher this year. They would have been like an 84 had they not had the junior high. The other piece, and I know probably, and I mentioned this to Goldana folks, and I know that my perspective is probably a little different. If Goldana were to close, and that would mean some of those Goldana students would come to Fairview if they didn't jump the lines, as some people have said they would. If we moved the 7th and 8th grade from Lakeview to Fairview and had a portion of those Goldana students, you would now have a school around the size, close to the size of Provençal in District 7, which what I need to tell everyone is would increase the benefits and the resources of every kid at Fairview right now, and it would increase the resources and benefits of every student at Goldana right now. Because when I have that many students in one place, I am able, based by that population, I can offer them more. I no longer possibly have to split a band instructor between two sites. I can give you a band director because you have the numbers to justify it. I can introduce programs that neither school previously had, but together they would have. I also believe that this creates a strong structure where a parent can send their child pre-K through 8th to Fairview. And in that same time, and I know this doesn't exactly make sense because there's 5th graders, 6th graders, 7th graders, but I'm thinking of that pre-K kid, and they're thinking about sending their kid to Lakeview. That gives me 10 years to get Lakeview on that right track, and it would become a very clean feeder from Fairview to Lakeview. The connective tissue, they're right down the road from each other. We've talked about that a lot. We talked about that in those meetings, how there's a disconnect with Lakeview. I mean, this connect would be so tight.
So how many kids that will approximately leave at Lakeview?
So right now, off the top of my head, I think they have 65 junior high students right now. And yeah, I think it's around that number. So that right now they're at 270. That would give them a 335. I understand that folks in the audience may disagree with me, but my projections, 60 students from Goldana would come. I would love it to be 100, but 60 students. That would get us right at that 400 mark at Fairview.
Well, I mean,
Fairview was built for around 600 to 700 students.
okay, how many will probably be at Lakeview?
Oh, Lakeview right now is in the 200s. They're a 1A right now, and so that would pull the junior high, but they would still be in the 200s. The main thing that would affect in terms of the numbers, and I think Chad's mentioned this before, is that you would no longer, by virtue of LHSA rules, be able to allow the junior high to play up because they're not on the same physical campus.
And currently, do any of the junior high students play up?
I believe in girls basketball specifically, there's an 8th grader.
Yeah, girls basketball specifically, and there's been talks that there was hopes that next year they could pull some up for football because you know that we ended the season with a very low number with football. It was there were less than 20 players dressed at the playoff game.
The only pushback, because you're right, there's no denying any of that. The only pushback I have on that is if you pulled the junior high down to Fairview, then you could potentially have a 6th, 7th, and 8th grade team, possibly even maybe have some biggins who were 5th graders on there. And then you'd have, I don't know if y'all were at the Jamboree, but Lakeview's junior high was the smallest group. Then you'd have a bigger program at the junior high, which I would hope would only impact the high school positively. But again, it's trading, you are making trade-offs there.
So is there any options to bring next century students to Lakeview? It's because I know it's a lot of kids
I wish we could.
who would like to go to Lakeview because the school is so big and, everybody don't function in a big atmosphere like that.
So that would take the board changing attendance zones, which, as we know, is usually not very popular, but that's up to y'all. The only other option you have, which I think would actually hurt Lakeview, is if you voted on open enrollment for high school. But again, then you have it going both ways, and I think that would be detrimental.
So you'd be talking about a choice type situation.
Yes, ma'am. But again, I think right now the concern would be Lakeview students attending Central.
Other parishes have done that, and you have a school that's a powerhouse in this, and then nothing else.
I'm against open enrollment everywhere.
Rapides open enrollment?
Rapides is open enrollment, and when we started open enrollment, we loved it at Pineville because we got all the kids. But now what it's morphed into is they got a good football coach at Ash, and so we don't get any football kids because Ash has become the football school. In Pineville, we get all the theater kids, but they can't block worth a darn.
I'm going to tell you, I'm not for it because I've got plenty calls from parents all over that area, and I'm just not for it because I don't think it's going to work because of those parents are not keen on sending their children to Fairview for the junior high.
I've gotten calls on it, and it's been 50-50 probably, and it's, to me, this is a very big deal. I think that the picture you paint is nice, and I think what you're talking about being created can be created at Lakeview also with the junior high there, with the right things in place and the right things done. Maybe not overnight. We know that. I mean, it can't happen overnight, but I think it, in a certain time period, it can be done. And, a football program that dressed less than 20 kids at playoffs is, having a few 8th graders is detrimental. The baseball team coming up this year, I've heard the numbers are very low, and they're looking at talking to some junior high kids. When I was there, you could try out for baseball in 8th grade. You were 8th through 12th, and we had the numbers. I know that basketball boys they got less kids this year than they've ever had. They still got a decent amount. They're a good program, and ROT. I mentioned it last week. ROTC mentioned looking at junior high kids to get involved early on. I don't know the rules there with the ROTC program, but and me and you have talked about this, and we've even mentioned what can we do at Fairview to like the branding thing. So.
The one other,
and this agenda item is a budget item, and there's no cost savings either way on this item, and it's in here. And I get what you're saying. It's a big item, so we want to do everything big together, but it almost may need to be looked at separately. So.
Yeah, no, I don't.
You know, you're talking about the numbers with the junior high, but years ago, they left the junior high out at Gold Honor to keep their numbers up. So if you wanted more junior high to Lakeview, well, take the junior high from Gold Honor and put where they should have been, but superintendent made deal with them to leave the junior high out at Gold Honor to keep Gold Honor numbers up. And that still didn't help because the numbers steady going down. So if you want to move the junior high from Lakeview to Fairview Alpha, we'll move the junior high from Gold Honor. Be fair with the whole north end. Don't favor don't favor Lakeview, Fairview Alpha, but we don't touch Gold Honor.
Well, there's
you
no
let Gold Honor
favoritism.
just stay with what it is.
There's no favoritism over any three of those schools for me. I can guarantee you that. And the decision that was made at that time, I had nothing to do with. I'm talking about.
Well, you can make the decision now to move the junior high from Gold Honor to Lakeview, and you have more junior high than you have now if you don't want to move them.
Well, there's a whole bigger picture going on with Gold Honor than junior high to Lakeview, and I think that's what's important. So that doesn't even matter to me. It doesn't.
Not to break up a wonderful discussion, but the other thing I'd tell y'all is I can tell you this past year we had one set of grading scale. This year we had every grading scale went up 5 points. Next year every grading scale goes up another 5 points. We talk about Lakeview having a perception problem. Lakeview's a B right now. I can tell you, and I'm not trying to be alarmist or Chicken Little, but it's the truth. Lakeview will be a C if we don't move the junior high from them. And it's either going to happen this coming year or the year after because of that grading scale difference. The junior high, if they were an 84, they would be a B. They'd be a solid B. But right now they moved to, I believe, a 78. A 78 in a year and a half, in 2 years will be a C. And I understand that's also my job to do that, but I'm telling you we have some structural issues in place that make it even more. Natchitoches Central has an easier, I'm not saying it's easy because I don't want to offend Natchitoches Central. They don't have to deal with the point situations that junior highs pull from a high school. And so we are, to some degree, setting them at a disadvantage school performance-wise by having the junior high there. And that is just factual, and I know there are so many more things to it, and that score is only one of them. But that is something we are going to have to overcome. And I can tell you the other thing, and I know, Pastor Harris, you're intimately aware of this. We have a new governor. We basically have a brand new Bessie. They are about to overhaul what high school looks like, and it'll happen in the next 12 months. So not only is that junior high going to hurt them, but we're going to be fighting other things, such as possibly the removal of work keys as an equal component to ACT. When that happens, you are going to need every point possible at Lakeview. So just want to put that piece out there as well.
What'd you say that swing was? It would have been an 11-point swing?
Well, that was with it being 7, so I think it was more of a overall 7-point swing. Because I didn't add them correctly, and I got Miss Felicia to do another round. But yes,
so would it cause Fairview scores to drop a little bit?
So actually, no, because when we did the simulation, what Fairview does not have right now is they don't have DCAI. So the junior high did reduce them a little bit on assessment index, but then, it kind of worked out perfectly. That DCAI index automatically brought them up
score
from what they lost.
So Goldana got it this year, but I don't think they'll get it next year.
I don't know if they'll have enough students to get it next year.
Goldana will not have the DCI next year.
They could go back down to a D.
You have to have a 10 cohort that applies to us, and we don't.
I think I would support what the community wants in this instance, right? I do feel like, I was at Lakeview when we've done this before. That's the thing. It's like history being rewritten.
Oh, yeah.
We just moved the 7th and 8th graders from Lakeview and sent them to Fairview a few years ago, and then we moved them back just a few years ago, and now we're going to move them back again to Fairview. It just seems like a lot.
No, I agree.
Remember the year? When did the junior high just come back?
What did I tell you, Chad? It was
Brooke told me the other day it was the year before her.
Was it 12, 13?
Yeah, her first year, they had just left. They were not there.
So let me put it this way, because I agree with you, Mr. Nicholson. It feels like an education that we go in cycles. But what I am convinced of, y'all, is there is no program that fixes schools. There's no, whether it's K-12 or 9 through 12, none of that fixes schools. What fixes schools is you do have some programmatic pieces, but doing those programs with the right people. Y'all do, I mean, y'all know, Mr. McTwire's on the board, Billy's on the board. We had TAP in this district. TAP didn't grow us the way it's growing us right now. Why is that? Well, I would say, nothing to disparage any people who were doing that stuff, but I think we've put the right people in the right sections and done everything at the right moment. And I think, yeah, it's been done before, but I think we could do it perhaps, I hate to say it this way because it sounds condescending, but maybe the right way at this point.
And another thing is we can't expect different results if we continue to do the same thing. We've got to, and the superintendent has put forth in front of us a number of plans over the last couple of years that have all panned out and worked well. And so I think the planning portion of this and the research portion of this makes sense. I agree with the communities. I agree with the communities because we need to make sure, but you can't continue to do the same thing and expect different results. You just can't do it.
So, Dr. Eloy, there's been changes at Lakeview this year, discipline-wise, right? And it's improved a lot?
It has.
It has. It has. The junior high still is, and I'm not disparaging what you're saying because they have done a ton of work, but
right.
The junior high is still the fly in the ointment sometimes because it's junior high kids. I mean,
and I don't think we're doing the same thing.
Where you're having disciplinary
I'm talking about structurally, Chad. I'm about structurally.
No, you're right.
We should work on consideration towards the community, the parents and teachers, and try to address some of those problems that need to be improved at that school.
The only people I've talked to so far in this is I have talked to the Fairview staff, and take this for what it's worth, and I hope Ms. Brooke doesn't get mad at me, but she has said that the vast majority of her staff is in favor of it. Some of those are parents, some of those aren't, but I mean take that for what it's worth. They don't represent the entire community. So
I didn't catch what you had said earlier about you were planning on upping the numbers of kids per teacher.
So when we do some of these reductions, naturally you're going to have some increased numbers of students. We are keeping those. When Miss Pinkney kind of started this, and her and Miss Page went through the exercise, the guidelines I kind of asked for were increase where we can to bridge the gap, but not to an unmanageable level where a teacher is now.
So I mean, what you figure a teacher would have per classroom?
So it really depends on the school because every school is different, but I can get you more specific numbers of what every school would look like. I can tell you what they're at now, and then I can tell you what they'll look like with some
20 or 24 kids in there?
Depending on the grade level.
Because to me, if we got a classroom at LP Vaughn, if a teacher got 24 kids in it, and out at Goldonna, you got 5 kids in it, it's not fair for that teacher out there at Goldonna to get the same salary as that teacher was 24. Well, and if you would put 24 out at Goldonna, you wouldn't have but 5 teachers out there with the number of kids you got out there now. Because if we're going to up the number of the kids in there and keep Goldonna open with these less amount of kids, I think we need to hire some more teachers and drop the numbers at all these other schools, surrounding schools, because it's not fair for a teacher at Provençal, Marthaville, or LP Vaughn to have anywhere from 20 to 25 kids. Then you got a school, you got 5 kids in there, and they're getting the same amount of pay.
So the issue there, I don't disagree with you. It's hard for me to justify any point that would disagree with you. The problem when it specifically comes to a school that has low enough numbers where there's only one class per grade level is how do you get the class sizes up without consolidating grade levels? So no, I don't disagree with you, Mr.
Need to consolidate them, because I don't see where it's fair. Because if I was a teacher and I was at these other schools, and you got these other schools got the less amount. I'd be raising all kind of cane, and would be trying to do everything I can to defer it.
Well, that's one of the things the superintendent was talking about last Thursday night on the equity piece.
Yeah.
You know, so it's just a tough situation.
There's never going to be a way with how diverse our populations are to be able to have everything be apples to apples. Our desire as a staff, though, is if we look at LP Vaughn and they are at average of 23 students per teacher, that, you know, maybe Marthasville may be at 22. Well, I think we can all agree 1 student difference, 2 student difference. We're trying to get to that. But when we start to get into 10 kid difference, that you're right. That is hard to justify and defend. But that is our process trying to get to that point.
So this is just a generic statement. I'm sure it's going to sound weird, but we anticipated voting on this in February. I don't see how at all possible would be ready to vote on this. I mean, it's a massive change. You know, lots of things need to be considered. I would love to see some town hall meetings in the Fairview and Lakeview community to see what the parents are thinking, what the kids are thinking. I mean, and you did warn us at the end of the year that we had some big things coming up, you know, big changes. But I just don't see how, as a board, we can
I would definitely
vote on
love
this
to
in
see that,
February.
especially with that 7th and 8th grade moving to Fairview, when I'm getting all kind of calls concerning it. And we've had this problem as far as dealing with the academic component because of trying to get the teachers that you need in the area. Even when Mr. Himes was living, you know, he worked hard trying to do that. Get the teachers. Again, we implemented stipend or something to try and change that. I don't know how it's working.
It's hard to get people to cross that river.
Yeah, but then again.
But if they want to, they can teach a smaller class.
But to again, it's
they ought to
about,
make less money too if they teach a smaller class.
They got the choice to
Ought
go
not
if
give
they
them more
want.
money to teach a smaller class.
But again, I think it takes recruiting, and that's one of the things that Ms. Page does. But it also we gave her something to work with too. We gave her some more money to work with, and we have had some teachers to bite it. But I think we need to give it some time on that component of it. But I would love to see more than the parents and things that's calling me, that's telling me that they don't like this idea. And I did not know that it was not spoken to with the Lakeview group about it. But I think.
So just to clarify, and maybe I misunderstand you, every one of these things, any principal affected by it was spoken to before it was brought to the board, including Lakeview.
Okay.
We also got into a bunch of other stuff, but I talked to all those groups, MPTCC, NVA, Fairview, Goldana.
Some of the teachers must.
We know how far they went with it.
Yeah.
I do not know how, because the idea was that, and I told each principal pretty much the same thing, because they all kind of asked, can we share this with our faculty? I said, well, you're in my office at 3:45. This is going live on the agenda at 4:30, so feel free to talk to them completely about this. I have a date to go out to Goldana. We postponed last Friday because 90% of the staff was here that Friday, and there's a little bit of we're in a holding pattern right now about that discussion. So I did talk to Ms. Corey Beth, but no, I don't have any issue talking to any staff. The assumption was based on those conversations that the principals, and actually for Lakeview, it was principal and coaching staff, that they were going to disseminate that information.
Ms. Phelps, you had talked about, I mentioned some town hall meetings, and so what are some of the topics that would be pertinent to these conversations.
Well, I'm just thinking, you know, Chad, Mr. Fradu acknowledged that, you know, not everyone would be in agreement with moving the Lakeview.
Okay, so the junior high move
Yeah.
would be
So
one.
that would be a
Okay.
part of it, and,
Okay.
and actually, this doesn't answer your question, but maybe brings up another one. We've thrown around the phrase not fair a few times tonight, and when you look at MPTCC, that's a whole high school with 100 kids. I'm not sure why they couldn't be moved to, no one give me the evil eye, but Natchitoches Central or somewhere else, because we talked about that before.
Yeah, that was supposed to
Didn't
be
happen,
done.
and it didn't happen.
And it didn't happen. And here's the thing about that. I don't think that they have everything that they need. And we're still talking about taking away what they do have.
And we have a table full of problem solvers here. Like, every single one of us want to solve the problem. And I guess I'm asking too, is that February voting date, like, is that timeline concrete? Like, we have to have this decided by then?
I'm not in charge.
Well, I mean,
I think that, so I would tell y'all, in terms of budgeting for next year, Lee's started that process, and I don't know where his date is for budgeting, but there's no real, he can anticipate things to some degree and fill in gaps. So I don't think it's an issue for him. I think on some of these things, there are logistical concerns about moving people around and things of that nature. I would tell you, I do staffing. We do that in March. Now, I would say, I don't know if that necessarily needs to be something y'all vote on. I mean, I do staff adjustments all the time. And so that piece, I need to be ready to be able to do that in March. But I don't necessarily think that's something that y'all have to vote on. The other pieces, if you're talking about Fairview Junior High, that concept, if you're talking about closure of a school has to be relayed to LDOE in June. But I can tell you, never done it before, but just, cleaning out a building, things of that, and I'm not trying to be flippant about that because it means more than just cleaning out a building. But there would be some logistical stuff with that. Same thing with NBA and NPTCC, the consolidation. Ms. Page, she's going to have to talk to a ton of people and put people everywhere. So the only thing I would say, I don't think you're wrong, Ms. Phelps. We just need enough time to be able to take care of things to get ready for next school year. And so the longer it waits, which some of this stuff can't happen anyways until April anyways or whatever. So I'm not saying you can't wait, but there probably is a time where it's going to be like, hey, we need y'all to vote to decide some of this so we can start acting on things.
right, I understand.
And I don't necessarily know what that exact date would be right now.
But some of these items would be affected if this hits the ballot, if this hits the school. So some of these might not even be valid at this point.
100%. If we go the ballot, if it goes on the ballot, then we're in a holding pattern on at least one of the most major things.
Whether it passes.
So then we can't really vote on
Yeah.
that in February.
Well, no, in February you'll vote to put it on if you want to put it on the ballot.
But we can't vote on this at the same time.
You would vote on that first, but here's the thing: y'all can also make motions if there's pieces. I will tell you the things that I think are an easy vote.
Right.
General fund to BRE, easy vote. Central office budget changes. I really don't need your authorization for that, but since I put it up there, I'd like y'all to vote for that.
We can take these one by one.
You could take 6, 5, 4, and 3, and I would be able to move on with the bulk of my work.
Right, so we'll have A and B, or we could propose C, which would be a mixture of.
Honestly, if you were to make a motion and say we would like to vote on 6, 5, 4, and 3, and then leave Goldana discussion just its own thing, and then also the Fairview discussion its own thing, I'm good.
Well, I think those are the two things that are snagging us right now anyway. All the rest of it
Well,
are a column move.
The Fairview
moving
thing is
funding
not a
and stuff.
budget,
It is not.
right?
It's not a
So, I mean, when she's talked about a town hall or something, I don't know the best scenario there, but I don't know, I could be wrong. I mean, I feel like we know where Goldana stands. We know the thing there. So I feel like that's the only one that would need.
Well, I can do you one better if you want me to. Because if y'all want to have a town hall, that's great. But we've had mixed success with that. What I could do, and I know I kind of spoke against surveys, but I think in this instance, y'all specifically want parent input. We can create a survey specifically about the Fairview Junior High piece and send that out to the parents who are connected with Lakeview students and Fairview students. And then if you would like us to, I don't know if you, I think it'd be important to include this, but it's only, you could include Goldana residents in that discussion, but separate their votes out because their opinion on this only matters if there's a Goldana closure, if that makes sense.
You could do that survey, and it could have on there Lakeview student, Fairview student, Goldana student.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That actually makes it a whole lot easier.
Right.
Well, but my question would be, if you just send out a survey without any information on how this is going to benefit or hurt either school or whatever, that's just going to be pure emotion.
Well,
I don't want my kid moving, I want my kid moving, and so I think there needs to be some education in this. I don't know how you do that on a survey.
So you can do that. I mean, there can actually be an area where you have to read. It'll say, read through this, and then at the bottom it says you can't vote until you click the button. It's assuming you read all the information. I personally would want to be very careful about what we present because I'm obviously in favor of this, and I don't want to come across that I'm stacking the deck to get the votes I want.
Well, it's perceived as if you're educating people in the way that you want to educate.
And there's a fine line in that.
But there needs to be some fair, impartial,
If
real
you're gonna,
numbers and education piece.
if you're gonna do a survey, I don't even think the school board, we don't need to have nothing to do with the survey because if it come back that say the closed Goldana, they're gonna say y'all padded it to make it show what you wanted it.
I'm not.
But I would say let's get an outside agent to do it. If you're going to do a survey, it would come out better because no matter which way it goes, the people in the community are going to say, y'all did the survey to make it look what y'all wanted.
So, Mr. Matoir, I'm not in favor of a survey about Goldana. To me, Goldana is more, that's a budgetary discussion. Where what I'm talking about, because we're saying the Fairview Lakeview piece is not budgetary at all. That's
right.
Yeah.
And if you give us enough time, I think we can get people out there who's going to be affected by this decision, get them out here for a town hall, and then maybe send out the survey after you talk to them.
You can educate them in that.
Right.
Then do the survey. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it does.
Well, Mr. Wascom tossed out some things. There's 7 things that have to happen for this Goldana thing to move, and we need to review those right now. First was announced at the January 25th board meeting there'll be a vote on February 15th. We've done that. That was our announcement. Next is start advertising Natchitoches Times. He's done that. At the January 25th board meeting, vote to delay the last board meeting from February, move it to the 15th. We've done that. On February 15th, the board passes a resolution for special election, which it won't be a special election. It will be just a regular scheduled election, but we're voting to put it on the ballot. Is that correct?
It's called a special election from our standpoint because a regular election is when the board members were elected. It's a normal election because it's recurring, it's required. This is in the terms of the state bond, you'll see the title.
Okay.
Resolution will say
Special election.
The,
All right, we'll
the
keep
last
going.
election that's getting ready to happen, March 23rd, is considered a special election.
Before all that, at Mr. Matoir's request,
right,
discovering who
that
will be funded.
that will happen tomorrow morning.
And then the next is pray that the State Bond Commission calls for a special meeting on, and so when would we know that? If they don't call for a meeting, this is a moot point with the
Correct.
bond.
That is correct, but it is almost certainly going to happen. But yeah, at this point, it has not officially been adopted.
Okay.
It gets adopted at the February 15th meeting, I believe, for their.
And then election, March 6th, the Secretary of State approves a resolution. And then on April 27th, we know it's a go or no-go if it goes to bond or it goes to millage.
It'll be voted up or down on that day.
And that's consolidated district number 7.
Only.
Not all of Natchitoches,
Right.
right?
It's basically everybody north of
Right.
Red River, basically.
And two, if it does pass and get on the ballot, I'd like for us to have some numbers as far as what it would cost each individual. Doing some literacy for that whole area.
We will have to establish what the final millage that y'all would like to pass.
Right.
Right.
Absolutely.
That has to be established, and y'all still have flexibility between now and the February 15th meeting to make those adjustments.
Okay, so I just wanted us to review to see where we are at this point. I've heard discussion for and against town halls. What would be on that agenda? Replacing it with surveys. I think, board, we need to come to some closure on what would be the best vehicle to move forward in this area.
I think we can use both of them. Again, we come for a town hall meeting, and then we send out the surveys or have the surveys there ready so that we can monitor or gauge what their feelings are.
But my question would be, Pastor Harris, if you have someone that's taking the time to come to this town hall meeting, wouldn't that almost be an affirmative vote?
Well, it's like you said, I think there needs to be some detail to what the pros and the cons, you know?
They felt strongly enough to attend that meeting, they would probably be voting in the affirmative. And so I don't know how you reach the other folks.
Or maybe
Not
invite them to our committee
necessarily.
meeting? Would that be, I'm sure.
Ms. Phelps,
Committee meeting.
I'm looking for some answers just like everybody else. Let's figure this out. What would you suggest?
Oh, I'm out of suggestions. I'm fresh out, like I said. Meat at Antunes, I'm not really sure at this point.
You know, we do have a 2,000 square foot patio and I have heaters.
Would there be a reason for us to move forward on the 3, 4, 5, and 6 tonight?
It's not a voting.
No, no.
It's not a voting. Okay, never mind.
It would be on the 15th. That vote would be on the 15th.
Would y'all like me to prepare that as a standalone item for next month?
That would be.
That'd be great.
No?
We
Reba has a
agree.
different thought.
What's the standalone?
Yeah.
Number 3, 4, 5, and 6 together.
All right, let's cover what those are. Can you scroll down?
Yep.
please?
Well, I think the simple solution is with the tax now being talked about in option C. And that's kind of, we've mentioned that before, and that's why the tax is that's my part of the option C.
Right.
Plan C. I think if we take the Lakeview piece out and move it to March, that gives us time to have some kind of meeting at Fairview or Lakeview and educate, everyone on that and get their opinions. I feel like, look, we're to a point now, we have pushed this thing back, and Reba, I don't think we'll ever be ready to vote on all this. I don't know if we'll ever be ready. So I think the rest of it, we have to take in February, and we could push that Lakeview piece back to March, if that's.
So I understand if you did a C, which C would be,
I think that's
put
we can talk
the
about.
tax on.
Right, and we can talk.
That would that be an all or nothing type thing for that though?
Well, like I said, I think that's what we need to talk about. I don't really know.
Because in my mind, it was, we'll put 3, 4, and 5, and 6. That's one thing. We delay the Lakeview Fairview till March. I'm good with that. Then I thought y'all would stand alone vote on if you're going to allow the tax to go to a
Up or down, right.
up or down. And here's my thing.
Okay.
Because what happens with Goldana, nothing happens with Goldana if y'all allow the tax to go to the ballot.
Right.
Until April, and
Right.
we either find out
Right.
passes or doesn't.
It's the same concept. Yeah.
My question would be, and I don't know if we're able to answer this tonight, I doubt we are, is if in February the Goldana tax fails to get on the ballot, then what? But I don't know if y'all want to delve into that right now.
That's another variable I think we need to wait on.
I need to prepare a resolution for presentation to the board on the 15th.
So
The
that
issues
needs-
of the number of years, the number of millage, that's gonna need to be discussed at the first board meeting in February.
So my understanding, and Mr. Fredo, correct me if I'm wrong, you are the sponsoring
Right, which
member
is,
of that, so.
it's a 10 mil at 5 years.
Well, I would like to weigh in on that during the discussion.
Okay.
I'm not in agreement with that number, but I will weigh in on it at that time.
Tonight,
I
preferably not.
I think also we need to look at also this item 1. And I know there's going to be a lot of emotion tied to this, but we also need to do, and we keep saying that we want to help Lakeview out and make Lakeview the best that we possibly can. And so we're going to have to sometimes break against the crowd.
Yeah, but this is not necessarily helping either.
Right,
Billy. You're not the one getting the calls.
I understand what I'm saying.
You have no
what you're
football
saying.
team. What do you, I mean, you
I've
can't
been
even have a
hearing-
football team.
I've been
then
hearing
what?
them say
Soccer.
To
I mean,
get rid of
what do
the
they have on the
football anyway, and
Well,
that's not going to happen.
Again, we're straying.
I'm on the board.
We're straying from that, but as a board, we need to do what we can to help Lakeview.
That's right.
Well, and as
Absolutely.
a board, I think we need to give every parent every opportunity to voice their opinion too.
I agree with that 100%.
That's my main interest, is to make sure parents
I
are
went- I
aware
went to
and we hear what they're saying.
And I know the SPS part of this, but I can tell you now, you come out to my community and you poll them and ask 100 people what letter grade is Lakeview, they ain't gonna tell you it's a B because they don't know. It becoming an A tomorrow, it wouldn't matter. It wouldn't matter. You have to change the culture. You have to get back in touch with that community.
That's right.
That's what has to be done for it to be
Right.
successful.
Like I said
Now, I understand the
earlier,
grade on your part. That is your job, and I understand that to improve that grade. That's what we task you with, so I
just
get it.
can't fault me on it for the evaluation.
No, I don't.
like I just said, y'all want to get the numbers up at Lakeview. Take the 7th and 8th grade from Goldana. Then y'all get y'all number up. Y'all saying one thing about y'all want to lose this number and leave it the same, but then y'all want to lose this. Y'all, we talking out of both sides of our mouth. Something got to give somewhere. Either take the kids at 7th and 8th grade from Goldana, put at Lakeview, or take the 7th and 8th grade from Lakeview, put at Fairview.
So
Either way, then y'all solve the problem. Y'all got just your high school.
You take the 7th and 8th grade from Goldana, you'll lose a lot more than that from the parish. They'll leave then.
But
You'll lose a lot more
I
than
will tell y'all, the 7th and 8th grade at Goldana, and because before this ever became a conversation, I had a conversation with Mr. Eugene before he even ever left about the 7th and 8th grade at Goldana, because we, and I don't want to misspeak, but we have less than 30 kids in the 7th and 8th grade. I could move all those kids to Fairview, and I know, I know some people will say they won't all go, but I could then absorb those junior high positions, and whether they went to Lakeview or Fairview, I would not have to add a position to incorporate them into the 7th and 8th grade. It would be overall savings for the district in those two positions. I'm not trying to get involved in I'm not Team Fredo or Team Matwire. I'm just Team NPSB. So I want to put those 2 cents out there.
Let's go team. One other thing, guys, if we put out surveys and we put out whatever, and we have an overwhelming emotional tie to not moving that 7th and 8th grade, and then we do something different because of emotion versus what we really need to do, what does that do to us? So we need to be prepared for that. Need to be prepared because, is this truly a vote at this point, or is this information, or what are we doing? Are we going to take the majority and then move with that, or I understand that you're elected representatives, especially from those areas, but we also need to be cognizant of the fact that I'm going to say this, doing the best that we possibly can to move Lakeview forward. So,
And I would say too that sometimes the best things, and I'm not including my plan in here and saying it's going to be a silver bullet and it's the best thing, but sometimes the best things are the unpopular things. And I think when you do get emotion involved, it sometimes takes you off track of doing the best thing because we all want to make people happy sometimes.
I can tell you this, I've been a part of some unpopular decisions that has hurt my community to the deepest.
You say in your community, but my community was hurt deeply, and the board members that want to keep his school open, I begged them not to vote, but he did vote, even begged them to pass a bond issue to renew the school. They didn't even want that, but now we got Gold Honor. We all in favor of doing this, doing that, and it's a dying school. Clutcherville had almost 300 kids at it. And several of them ready in the audience they was all for to close it because they wanted their school open. But now the shoe getting tight on their foot, now they screaming and hollering for us to do them a favor. To me, that's hypocrites. So,
But I think
why, hold up, I'm listen to what y'all say. Y'all gonna listen to what I got to say. We want to do favors for certain communities. Even I heard that they talk about busing kids from Gold Honor, little kids. Yeah, they bus kindergarten from Clutcherville all the way out to Provençal. I'm a living example of one. I got a 10-year-old girl catch the bus at 6:10 every morning, go to Provençal. How many kids do Gold Honor have in their community? Red Ron in their community? Nobody have never even answered that. Just about every kid that go to Gold Honor is bused to Gold Honor. But we want to holler about kids being bused. Let's quit being a hypocrite and treat every parish, every district the same thing. We trying to do favoritism and all that. We treat the teachers, we can add all these kids to these teachers here in the city limits, but Gold Honor teachers can add 3, 4, 5 kids in there, making more than some of these teachers even don't think about making. But we get your feelings involved in it, instead of do the right thing, you want to do what 3 or 4 people want to do. Well, let's do what's right. Nobody in this community, nobody on this board, if you have a business that you're losing money in it, you're not going to keep it open. You're going to close it. So we are losing money at Gold Honor, but they still want to keep it open. Kids is steady falling. But since I've been on the board out there, Gold Honor, the kids been losing out there, but we still want to keep it open. I guarantee if it didn't have but 5 kids out there, y'all would want to keep it open. Even if we lose, why should we take nothing under $100,000 out of each one of these school systems? We got 13 schools. If we're going to lose $2 million out there at Gold Honor, that's nothing under anywhere from $150,000 to $175,000 out of each one of these school systems. Each one of the schools that we have, that's how much money that we're going to take out. Would Gold Honor want to take $150,000 out of their budget and put over here for LP Vaughn or Weaver or one of these schools, either Marthaville or Provençal? Would they want $150,000 took out of their general fund to put over there? So that's what we're looking at. If we keep Gold Honor open, they say right at $2 million that we're going to have to spend to keep Gold Honor open. So divide 13 into $2 million. Out of each one of the schools, you're going to be anywhere from $150,000 to $175,000 that each school will lose that we have the 13 that we got to have open. We back and forward with this, back and forward with that. I guess Gold Honor is the flagship of the community. I mean of Natchitoches Parish. But, what it came down to with keeping my school open, closed. I hadn't been through St. Matthew closed. I hadn't graduated from that. Spring Hill closed at Clutcherville. Clutcherville closed. But all these schools closed in my area. We don't even have a school in the southern end. But we got 3 up there. But we don't want to close one. No matter what it costs Natchitoches Parish school system, we don't want to close it. And the simplest deal is to close the school. But, yeah, I wanted my school to stay open. I argued about with staying Clutcherville open. But, you know, when you had ignorant voters, when you had the sick voters, you know, when you sleep with a dog, you get fleas. So, slept with a dog, they got fleas, so we need to do what we got to do. And I will never vote to keep Gold Dawn open.
And that's your choice, and you're right, Mr. Matoir. You have that option. And what happened years ago, I hate it happened. I know nothing about it, wasn't involved. But if it was Gold Dawn at the top of that list, if it was LP Vaughn, if it was Provençal or whatever, I would sit here and work side by side with every one of you to find any option and leave no stone unturned to see if we can keep that school open. I just so happen to be the representative for that area. And it's not just 4 people that have come to me, it's way more than that. And look, I understand the business decision, I know, but I'm asking that we look into everything and we look into this tax option and we discuss it and see if it works out. And at the end of the day, if it doesn't, it doesn't. And it's what God intended.
And I'll be telling you this, you say about with money closing, if Clutcherville was losing money, I'd have raised my hand to vote it. But we was making money. We was doing that. But you had it stripped it to nothing where to make it look bad, even come around with false numbers to make it look bad. You know, so, you know, if something is losing, I don't care either one of these schools in Natchitoches Parish. If Natchitoches Central is not funding itself or not making the money to keep it open, I'd vote today to close it. Because I'm responsible for the taxpayers' money. And everybody on this board, I don't know, you just got on it, but Emil always was going to spend the taxpayer money just like I'm spending mine, because my family pay a bunch of property tax, and that's most of the time, that's the reason I vote against property tax, because that's the most unfair tax, if it ever was, property tax.
Well, I was just going to say, not about specifically about Gold Dawn and not specifically about Clutcherville, but I feel like I hate that for Clutcherville because I feel like they didn't give it justice as far as in going through a process to just see what everything that you can the district could do to keep it open. So like going through this, whether they close Gold Dawn or not, at least we know, right now, what we're doing now should have been done back then with Clutcherville. So I think in the future it will help us to, if we come up on the situation again, that we'll have a process and try everything that we can to keep a school open. That's what I was just saying, like, you know, at least we're trying every avenue, which they should have did for Clutcherville.
But I think we also have to be wary of setting precedents, because you know, and I don't think anyone, including Mr. Matoir, enjoys this process. It's not a fun process. I know we've all lost sleep, and it's just not fun. It's not. But there does come a natural time, and I don't know if that time is now for a school, but there comes a natural time when schools have to close. And I just wonder if, you know, if we do this with Goldana, if in 10 years, are we going to have to go through an exponentially more difficult process, you know, going out to voters for a tax, et cetera, and make things more difficult. And I have to tell you, when it comes to bond issues, and we talked about this kind of last week, I'm very leery of going out with bond issues without having our ducks in a row, because even when we just kind of internally talk about going out for bond issues and people find out we're talking about them, they get upset. And because I think it's hard to get a tax passed in Natchitoches Parish. There's no doubt about it. It's difficult. And I think it's what I feel like we've done over the past 4 years is we've slowly built some credibility and equity with the taxpayers. And I know the people, for the most part, obviously the people in Goldana are in favor of this tax. I have heard that, you know, there's people in the Fairview area who are, the word I was told is livid, and whether they should be or shouldn't be. That's just the nature of it. But I do wonder about how people perceive us as a fiscal agent, as a government agent, putting out a tax of this nature, the thing I've wrestled with is it feels like we are going outside the normal bounds of things. And again, I don't want to close Goldana. I don't. And I would say that about any school. But this does feel, this tax, and this also is because of conversations with Lee about the amount and the day and the months. And this is coming from someone who's lived education for his whole life. This feels very unusual compared to how we typically fund and keep schools open. And I think by doing this, if you so choose as a board, this is a precedent you're going to set every time we have this conversation.
At every school, when it comes down to this level.
Let me say this. First of all, we didn't go to Goldana and ask them to pass tax. Goldana came to us. That's first thing. Secondly, I think I've been one of the most consistent board members on here about where I stand on closing of schools. I didn't vote to close Clucheville. I will not vote to close Goldana, and it has nothing to do with what color they are. When I look at something, the first thing I look at is how does it affect the child? And my colleague, Mr. Matoya, is absolutely right about the fact that putting these children on buses and busing them here, there, and everywhere. But I had nothing to do with what happened in history. In history, Natchitoches Parish school system has not been fair to the people of color because every last one of the black schools were closed. So this is a history lesson, first of all, that if you don't remember history, you'll repeat history. So there's feelings still concerning about this. So I think we need to look at it as a history lesson, but we also need to look at it as an opportunity to gain knowledge to do things better. And I'm not going to ever, because you did me something, I'm not going to ever come at you like that, because this is my opportunity to be who I really am. And so with that being said, I always look at the child. What type of effect was that going to have on that child at Clucheville? That's the reason I not in good conscience could I vote to close Clucheville. Not in good conscience. Again, I have been consistent on where I stand on this thing. And so my prayer is for the fact that I understand at the end of the day, we're responsible for balancing the budget. But they brought up the fact that they would pass a tax, or they were going to try to pass a tax. If they don't pass the tax, because I've had folks from Fairview, it affects the people in the Reedheimer area, the Ashland area, the Creston, Chestnut, all those areas. This move is going to affect. But at the end of the day, those three schools are intricately tied to one another. It's going to affect all of the schools. And inevitably, it's going to affect the whole system. It's like a man. Let me say this, and I'll finish. I said this: if we don't stop the bleeding, it's like a person who is starting off cutting one of the pinky toes off because they've got diabetic. Then you start cutting the foot off. Then you start, because if we don't stop the bleeding, all of us going to ultimately be affected by this. That's the only thing I'm going to say.
You know, you say about the people,
Mr.
out there
Matoir.
come to y'all, the people out there at Goldana come to pass a tax, well, the people in Clutcherville asked the same thing, to pass a tax to remodel their school, but we wasn't given that choice.
Wow.
So don't think Goldana is doing something that Clutcherville did tried to do to keep their school open. But I've always said, when you're dealing with ignorant people, you get ignorant results. Then that's how I felt about the board.
The previous board.
The previous board, not this board, previous board.
And let me say this.
The previous board.
Let me say this, and this is the first time I've heard about that you all tried to pass a tax to remodel. It must have gone to
we actually got a person to come, the lead probably could tell me to say how much it would cost the bond issue to have the school remodeled. I don't know who would do it. I know they came down and put up a number. I forgot how, I think $2 million to remodel, $1 million something to remodel the school. We even had all that did, but they denied us to even try to get it remodeled. Mr. Skinner told him no, he had Mr. Skinner, well, maybe I shouldn't call his name, but the previous superintendent say he had his 6 votes. He was going to go ahead and do what he wanted to do.
I think it's also important, Pastor Harris, you mentioned that, and you're correct. The community's asking for y'all to pass this or to put the tax on the ballot. There's a lot of things communities ask us for. There's a lot of things that they feel as though y'all should do. But simply by asking does not mean that there's any impetus or reason that you have to do it. It's only if you believe it's.
I've made the decision to do that, though. So if you want to put it on somebody, you can put it on me.
No. I'm not saying. I'm saying to vote for it to put it on the ballot. Yeah, no. It's every board member's right to put something on the agenda. What I mean is, you're in agreement with it if you vote to put it on the ballot. And I think I said it last week about, you are almost kind of passing the authority for the decision making of Goldana onto the taxpayers. And I understand why. I'm not disputing that, but I do think ultimately, the decision really is on whether you're going to put the tax on the ballot or not for every board member.
I think the whole purpose of that was to let the people decide. So when you're saying, I'm saying this in a friendly way, so when you're saying letting the board decide that, you're giving the people the choice. We're giving the choice to them. If that tax does not pass, that's on the community. And I think we as a board deserve to give that right to people. And so I would hate for a board member here to think, if I vote no, then, or yes, I'm in agreement with keeping the school open. What you're in agreement with is letting the people decide, not necessarily.
I totally agree with you, and I say this also
nicely
as well. That I agree with that completely. The problem I have is that, and I know he's been quiet over there because he's good people, is that your CFO or your business director is going to tell you that the tax that is being put out there does not do what it's intended to do. And so it's a half measure, and even at a higher price point, there's concern about it being a half measure because of future students exiting. So I don't disagree with it, because ultimately it would go to the people, and if they want to do that, but what we have right now does not do what it's intended, and that's not meant to disparage. I understand where you're coming from, but you are going to hear from the CFO, and he's going to tell you that this is from a financial standpoint, it does not fix the issue.
Well, building on the financial, I'm so sorry, just
ahead.
for a second. Building on what Ms. Palmer said and what Pastor Harris said, going back and rehashing what happened to Clutcherville is not productive for any of us. That's not helping Goldana. It's not helping the community. It's only bringing up past scars. And I think one of the reasons why it's perceived that we're showing favoritism to Goldana when it's not actually favoritism, most people around this board had to deal with the disposal of the Clutcherville property. It was a waste of taxpayers' money from the top to the bottom. It was a horrible situation for all of us. And Goldana has many more buildings than the few that were torn down at Clutcherville. It's a nice campus that has been kept up through the years. There's a new rock wall there. I mean, it's a nice campus that will be vacated, empty, and what do we do with it? So I think there's a lot of board members who don't want to deal with the sadness of what do you do with a whole campus 30 miles away from town. So when we talk about using the public's money wisely, a vacant building 30 miles from town is not a wise investment at all.
The idea behind the amount, the 10 mills, is Goldana was at $16,000 per student cost. The 10 mills in our district creates over 100,000 a meal, which would be $1 million. It would bring that cost per student probably below any other school. You'd have to run the calculation, but I know at 600,000 when we talked, it would put it at 9,000 per student. So I would imagine an additional 400,000 would be pretty low, if not lower than everyone. And that is the people doing their part in trying to balance this budget and help balance this budget for the district.
They're part of the budget.
They're part of the budget. You know, a 20 mil tax would be all of Goldana's budget. If we're going to do that, they could just do that and we could open a private school over there or something, you know? I mean, that's the idea behind the 10 mills. It brings it below anyone else. They're doing their part and more. And there's hope that there can be other things found throughout this plan or whatever. But
the implication of this tax, if passed, is that Goldana will stay open for 5 years.
Well, and we've talked about the language that we would like to tie to it, and I know we got to speak with the lawyer some more on that.
But you have to admit that the community is expecting that if they pass this tax, we will be keeping it open for 5 years because it's a 5-year tax.
That would be.
Yeah, I would if I were voting.
But that would be my assumption as a taxpayer in that district, and that may not be the case if they lost another 30 students.
So I want to ask this question, Chad. Mm-hmm. Have to solve this question for me numerically. Currently, Billy brought up this idea about how much in decline the enrollment is. We dropped 29% from May until August and never brought up closing that school. And we haven't done this in years. This board hadn't even brought that up. This actually is what stimulated this conversation. If you stay on that same trajectory, this time next year we're at 71 kids. The year after that, we're in the 60s. The hemorrhaging of this decline has got to stop.
Right.
And at that point, once the hemorrhaging of the numbers stop and you start moving it up, then there's hope. But I would hate to tell you, okay, maybe your numbers are at 16, but if you take that same calculator, 16,000 per kid, and lower it to 71 instead of 95, 97, whatever it was we used, this cost per kid goes to like 23, 25,000 per kid because your fixed costs are the same. You're at a point where the escalation is so rapid that it's going to take an overwhelming amount of money to get the cost back down, and it would have to come from the community.
And Lee, I hate to interrupt you, but I think it's germane to what you're saying. Lee and I, when we have these conversations, which we've had many, we are absolutely petrified of our budget in this situation. We are petrified of it.
You have to be of your budget. You have to be of your budget because if the state or the federal government is not going to let you start a school in the red, what they're gonna do, if you got a budget in the red, they just gonna come here and say, okay, we're gonna close this school, or we're gonna take this, you're gonna have to get rid of these many employees, where you can fix it now by when employees retire, you don't hire back. But the state is not gonna let you operate a school system in the red. So if you're too far in the red, they might just come and do away with a bunch of more schools. It might be just one school you want to close. They might say you got to get rid of 100 employees. You got to close 2 or 3 schools to get out of the red. And they're not going to just get you out of the red, do it to get you out of the red just for this year. They're going to look down the road for so many years that they don't have to come back next year and do the same thing.
That's the conversation that Lee's having right now.
Yeah, that's what it is.
What you're saying, Mr. Matoyer, the state would intervene.
Oh yeah, they're not going to
decide.
Yeah, they're not going to let you operate in the red. They're not going to let you start. If we go in the red, if Lee tell us we in the red at the end of June of this year, August when we start, the state not going to let you start up in the red because you don't have the funding to operate a school system.
And not only do we need to have a hard conversation about this, because in 3 more to 5 more years, which I'll be gone, but in 3 to 5 more years, you got 24 positions that's being paid for by federal grants and things. That's either going to have to be paid for from the general fund, or you're going to have to go and try to find some more grants. That's a conversation you're going to have too soon.
And Pastor Harris, I love that. But no, it'll be the strong grant will be gone by then. And there's a possibility to get that exact grant again, but I'm glad you said that, because one of the reasons that we need to have surpluses, besides that being fiscally responsible, is so that we can build up our reserves. Our academic fund that was created by policy a few months back?
Academic reserve.
Academic reserve, so that way because part of the strong grant is also creating a system to maintain the strong grant, because we're getting these gains because of the structures we put into place, but they have to be sustainable.
That's right.
And if we are operating at a deficit for the next 5 years, all these things you're talking about, they will not be sustainable. They will go away overnight. We'll have to. And then everything we achieved will slowly but assuredly start to decline.
Ratchet down.
And it's scary about these vouchers. These things are scary,
There's a lot of
being given
things
to them.
There's a lot of things in these. And board members, if we don't have anything else to add, Mr. Lee, do you have something to add? We're going to continue this conversation.
Okay.
First Tuesday.
Okay.
February.
Right. And I won't be here, sadly. But
what?
Won't be here for that. I'll be here for the last one. I would just like to say real quick is that this money, that all these things that Dr. Eloy and I have presented to y'all, this is ongoing cuts to where we become more efficient. I personally have, the year since I've been here, been trying to ask that we make hard decisions. But this is not just one-time money. It's not one-time money. This is ongoing. And we need to also reread the demographic report. It's not just Goldana. It's the whole district is going to have to make some adjustments. And we have some facilities that we may have to go further in the future. I'm just saying, we don't know where the future has, but I'm presenting, Dr. Eloy and I have, I think, presented what we think is the best option. The vote would change things, Chad. It would. So I'm not saying that that's not an option. It just needs to be at the right number, and I don't think 10 mils is gonna do it. However, if you, I just want everybody to understand what we were talking about earlier with one-time money differs greatly from ongoing, and this is ongoing because this actually reduces our budget down, and it does set us up for a future, and that we can move forward.
And what you just said, Mr. Wascom, about further in the future, just that the survey that we got this year even in that survey where they was talking about, next few years, probably a school here in the city limits going to have to close because of the numbers. Survey,
Mr. Hefner, the demographer.
Yeah.
He's saying I believe in 27, was it 2027?
28 at least, for
27,
sure.
28 school year, that's when he believed our demographics would stabilize. That being said, we've gone over some of his even projections on declines.
Y'all also need to understand is Dr. Eloy and I have been very careful with payroll. There's already been efficiencies of staffing already that we've already declined, and I think we've done very easily, very quietly. It's not quietly like we're sneaking around. It's just we have become more efficient with our payroll.
Without impacting people through terminations.
Termination, and we've saved 67 positions already. But we've done a great deal, I think, to anticipate. But at some point, there's only so far you can go. Emil, we're going to be bringing up the idea that we're going to start cutting bone at some point. It's not just trimming fat, and there's not a lot. I mean, I think we've been pretty efficient.
Ms. Phelps,
I'm sorry. You did say as far as staff adjustments, that would be through attrition and retirements. Not
Yes, ma'am. So, and I'm going to say this every time, just so everyone knows. No teacher will lose their job assuming they are fully certified. A non-certified, and the reason I've mentioned this, it's not like we're going to pick on them, but a non-certified teacher at any point, if a certified teacher comes in, by law, the certified teacher has the right to that spot. So it's not that we're saying anything different than usual. A non-certified teacher always has that, what's the word I'm looking for, that yes, the priority is always for the certified teachers, but we do not believe, nor do we want to do a RIF. What we want to do is through natural attrition, be able to do this, and we've done it before. We did it 2 years ago through natural attrition. We reduced by 30 some odd spots in 1 year, and it worked perfectly. And we believe we can. Our scores went up.
Mr. President.
Ms. Phelps, does that
actually concludes the executive report.
Thank you very much. Okay, a couple of things, guys. First off, thank y'all for your vote of confidence in reelecting me as president of this board. It means a lot. This is a very talented board. A lot of good thought. A lot of good people on it. Second is, if I'm not mistaken, Ms. Hawkins asked for us to leave that budget report with you, that audit. Is that right?
Last year.
Okay.
Bring back the one we had from last year.
Not this one, Billy, last year.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sure y'all have that file.
Yeah, mine is.
There's no news like good news, Mr. Wascom. Thank you for that. Mr. McTwire, do you have a message for us?
Let me see. I move we adjourn.
Second. Here's a second.
Palmer. Please get your.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay.
This is Russ's. Chad.